so that means we're ready to go. A little early, but we're going to crank up anyway. So we're going to call a meeting of the Board of Supervisors, the Liquor and Entertainment Board, and the Redevelopment Authority to order. Today is June 2nd, 2016. It is just before 8:30 a.m. We're at 851 East William Street in our very own Carson City. Could we have a roll call, please, for the record?
Supervisor Aboud? Here. Supervisor Bonkowski? Here. Supervisor Bagwell? Here. Supervisor Shirk? Here. Mayor Kroll? Here. Quorum is present.
Thanks. Do we have the Reverend McCord here this morning? I don't see Bill. Why don't we just stand and have a moment of silence? And, Okay, we're going to move on to item number 5, public comment. This is the time for public comment. We've got a couple things that I know about on Bike Month and an introduction. Anybody else like to take any public comment other than those two right now? Anybody? Come on up. Come on. There, good.
Thank you for this opportunity to address this panel. My name is Dee Williams. I and my minor-age daughter are survivors of domestic violence. This brought us into the Justice Court here in Carson City, and we just were issued this affidavit from Justice Tom Armstrong. This affidavit is very disturbing, and I think anyone who reads it who has any consideration for the safety of children would be disturbed by this affidavit. Justice Armstrong details that the Justice Court is destroying child abuse evidence every 2 years. This violates several statutes in the state of Nevada, including NRS 11.250, which protects children's rights. Justice Armstrong goes on to say in the affidavit that the court case files that are being destroyed contain photographs of batteries to children. Well, once these photographs are destroyed, there is no evidence for the child to be protected from his or her abuser. So we are asking to be put on the agenda. We would like to discuss this matter and the culpability of Carson City. Carson City personnel staff Justice Court, and they are the ones who are actually destroying the evidence, and they actually have detailed how they're destroying it. There is a contract with a company by the name of Shred It, who comes in and takes the photographs, takes the police reports, the medical records, all of the evidence of batteries to children, and shreds it. The culpability of Carson City is they cannot enter into an illegal contract. Carson City cannot enter into a contract with Shred It to shred child abuse evidence. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dee. Okay. We'll take a look. I don't know. It's the first I've heard of that. But yes, sir. Come on up. Come on. Yeah, come on up. Thanks. Madam DA, yeah.
Mayor, I just want to make sure that before we put that information on the website as part of any kind of materials that there does not exist any copyright material.
On what we're just handed out? Mm-hmm. Okay, fine.
Thank you.
All right.
Good morning, folks. My name is Stephen C. White. I am an artist and an artist advocate. And I came to talk to you today about giving you a gift and delivering the gift of art back to your community. It's interesting that you'll note in there there's a federal lawsuit ruling from the Ninth Circuit Court, White versus Sparks. I am that artist. And I wanted to tell you why I brought that lawsuit. I'm a veteran. I got out of the Army in 1969. I get a little emotional about some of this stuff. When I got out, I was going to college down in the Bay Area in the People's Park riots and all the people rioting against Vietnam and everything. I had a hard time settling back into society, like a lot of vets today. And my mom got me involved in doing artwork, and it literally saved my soul. And I went out on the road. I bought a truck and a trailer, taught myself how to do oil paintings, and I spent 45 years touring all over the United States as an artist, literally painting my way around America. Never settled down. I guess they call that stress syndrome now, but I literally, in my lifetime, I've witnessed the downfall of the arts in our society. I've witnessed children losing the arts out of their lives. And I understood what happened because I witnessed it in my life. You know, 35, 40 years ago, artists went out and did art shows, and craftspeople did craft shows, and commercial vendors did, you know, flea markets and things. It wasn't until about 35, 40 years ago that this phenomenon of holding these big mega festivals happened, and the city government started using it as a fundraiser. And at that point, they threw artists into this commercial mix with all the commercial vendors. And over the years, all of us lost sight of the fact that there's a big difference between a First Amendment protected artist and commercial vendors. And I realized the only way, another part I need to tell you about those. In my travels in 1998, I was doing a show out in Littleton, Colorado. I challenged the Foothill Park and Recreation District on these matters out there, and I opened up public parks for artists to be able to sell in their parks and all. And it started in a little park called Clement Park in 1998, and I had kids out there reading poetry to the public. I had them out there displaying their artwork alongside of grandparents. It was a wonderful thing. Everybody loved it. It was the first time it had ever happened out there. I stayed through the winter, and in the spring of '99, I got invited to talk to a bunch of Boy Scouts at a local church there in town. Found myself in this local church with 40 little kids sitting there in front of me, telling them about their First Amendment rights to be able to go to the park and have art shows and raise money for their camping trips and all. The very next morning, I was down at the park getting ready to set up. It's going to be hard for me to tell you about this. But while I was sitting in the back of my truck drinking a cup of coffee, waiting to take my artwork down and set it up there in the park, I heard gunshots. You see, Columbine High School is attached to that park. And that morning, I witnessed that tragedy firsthand. A couple of days after the shooting, I wrote an article, a paper, about the need to deliver the gift of art back to the children of our country as an alternative to guns, drugs, and violence. And I had 1,500 copies of it printed at Office Max and took them over and put them in the memorial at the park there. Kid that was doing the printing for me was reading it and he started crying. Asked to talk to me outside, and we went outside and he told me he was a friend of Eric Harris and Dylan Claybold, two boys that did the shooting. Told me how they were both artists, how they got into it with the jocks. And anyway, the last thing he told me, he said, you know, just think, Mr. White, if they'd had a chance to get that on in a positive way through their artwork, maybe it never would have happened. In that moment, I went on a mission, a personal mission. I didn't know how I was going to do it. By God, somebody had to do it. And that mission was to deliver the gift of art back to the children of our country, as those from those kids that died that day. So I knew that somehow or another this had to get into the federal courts. We had to have some clear definitions about the fine arts and what is a First Amendment protected artist? What are those protections? So I went out to Utah and I was working with the mayor of Salt Lake City, revitalizing downtown Salt Lake City. We delivered the arts back to Salt Lake City prior to the Olympics. and worked with Mayor Rocky Anderson out there. I learned how to write municipal codes working with Rocky. He supported everything I was doing, and we revitalized Salt Lake City that way. Interesting thing, I came out here then to challenge Carson City in 2003. Called up the city attorney, said, hey, we want to sell our artwork in the park. He's a nice guy. He said, you know, I'll tell you what, you can go down and display your artwork publicly, you just can't sell it in Mills Park. So we said, well, we'll get our foot in the door. Understand, none of this had been defined yet. The courts had never defined any of this stuff. And that's why we needed to get into court and define it. But they dodged the bullet here in Carson City because of your fine attorney at the time. We got out there in the park, we started doing a show, and a lady told us about a couple of civil rights attorneys up in Reno. We went and met with them. One of them was Terry Kaiser Cooper. I don't know if you know of her. Brilliant civil rights attorney. Turns out she had a master's degree in art. And as a miracle, they offered to represent us, myself and my buddy Ben Kleinfelter, a sculptor, bringing these matters into court on their own nickel. We didn't have any money to pay them. God bless them, they took us on. So first we went after Reno, and we brought a lawsuit against them. They told us we had to, jury our artwork in order to get a license to sell our artwork. And we took them on. They quickly folded. They didn't want to play. They paid the attorneys $48,000 in damages. Wasn't good enough. I wanted a ruling out of the Ninth Circuit. I wanted a ruling from the Supreme Court. So I went after Sparks. And God bless Sparks. I love Sparks because they like to fight. And they fought me all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And we won in every court. We won at the lower district court with the Honorable Judge Hagan, conservative old judge here, and he was getting ready to retire. By God, he gave us the winning ruling because he understood we were right. We went in to the Ninth Circuit, and a 3-judge panel also gave us the ruling that you'll read there. Landmark ruling, overturns every governmental policy dealing with artists and arts all over the entire western United States. First time they ever defined what the First Amendment protections of artists are is in that ruling, White versus Sparks. So anyway, since then, it isn't good enough. We can't just win these rulings. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, by the way, and they all reviewed it, and every one of these judges agreed. 24 federal judges agreed. And this is what it all comes down to. All that paperwork, all those words, it comes down to 2 things, folks. First off, self-expression. Not somebody else's artwork, your own self-expressive artwork. Not your wife's, not your daughter's, not your son's, your own right to freedom of speech. Number 2, the key reason why we won that case, and I knew I was going to win it from day one, my artwork has no other purpose than to be expressive. Can't do anything with my paintings except hang them on the wall and look at them. That's the defining difference between First Amendment protected artwork and a commercial merchant selling merchandise. That's it, right there in a nutshell. The fine arts, the Ninth Circuit went on to point out, and first I got to quote you the second sentence in the ruling. We hold that the sale by an artist of his original artwork constitutes speech protected by the First Amendment. The actual sale of it is protected speech. Government is not allowed to license an individual's rights that are protected under the First Amendment. In another ruling, Berger versus Seattle in 2009, they clearly point out the reason why. Government's never been allowed to license an individual's rights.
Where's it going with respect to us here? I got you on we got the legal stuff. We're going to look at that. Where's it going with respect to Carson City? Okay,
what I wanted to talk to you folks about is, number 1, define that difference. But number 2, we provided you with the Reno municipal codes that I worked with the new Mayor Hillary Sheeves, to create those codes back in 2014. They're the first definitive codes by any city government in the country that define the difference between a First Amendment protected artist and a commercial vendor. Very important. There are some changes I would make in it. For instance, they mentioned allowing an 8-foot high display. No. You want to keep display limits under 5 feet so they don't blow over and hurt anybody, okay? And I don't want to see canopy tents and stuff. But it's important for you to know the difference, because we don't want to turn your city into a flea market. You need to know the difference between an artist and a commercial vendor. You know what I mean? So here's the thing, sum all this up. I would love to, just like we did in Reno, sit down with your city attorney, maybe at least one member of the board, and let's sit down and let's cover all this stuff and let me explain it all to everybody so everybody's on the same page. And maybe you guys, it's time to write some new codes and get this into your municipal codes so you're protected and you're in compliance with the law as well. Sparks is in compliance, Reno's in compliance. Also, we passed State Assembly Bill 351 in 2005 called the Art in the Park Bill. It opens up all the public parks in the state of Nevada for art to be part of the recreational experience of the parks. Anyway, that's what I want to do. I'm hoping we can have a meeting with the city attorney and
Steve,
let's take it further.
let the city attorney, let the city attorney take a look at this and we'll get with you, okay?
That's fantastic.
I don't know where it is
Thank you so
legally,
much
but-
for letting me have all this time, sir.
That's okay.
And God bless you for your service to your community.
Welcome home to
Thank
you.
sir.
Welcome
Thank
home
you,
to
sir.
you. All right.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dominic Martinelli, and
Dominic.
just wanted to kind of dovetail on that. As a local artist and photographer, I wanted to make sure that as we go forward with the downtown redevelopment, that there are places in downtown for First Amendment protected free speech, so that we can participate in bringing people into downtown, because I believe that the arts are central and cultural to our collective city. It's something that, from what I understand, we're trying to do is to bring people downtown, to bring families downtown, to see that people have an investment in their community. You know, being somebody that's kind of on the outside, because I do live in Indian Hills, so just to preface that, my address says Carson City, but technically I belong to Douglas County, but I live and work right here downtown for the most part. I only sleep in Douglas County. From somebody from the outside, it kind of looks like we're investing a whole lot of this city's resources into one section of this city. So if that's the case, then I hope that there is a huge benefit to the entire city, that the entire city would be coming out and sharing together, much like what happens at the farmers market, which you all support, which I totally think is one of the greatest events that happens in this whole city. I would like to see the arts play a central role when we close streets, that there's a place for artists to be, that there's a place to be on those new extended sidewalks where we're not in the way of thoroughfare, so that it brings more traffic to downtown and helps us economically and helps us to grow together in community. So that's really what I'm about today, and that's why you're getting all this information, because I want to make sure that that is protected, that it's already said, it's put in some form of writing so that we can move forward, working with the artist community to bring back a little bit of what is great about downtown in a regular fashion downtown in the public spaces. So really, that's all that's about.
Very good. Have you taken a look at the Arts and Culture Master Plan?
I will love to look at that.
Okay, because you know, I know you live right across the border there, but there was extensive hearings through the Cultural Commission here that we had that actually hired a consultant to come in and do a cultural and arts master plan for Carson City. And so, you know, take a look at that and see what you think. And then, but your comments, I believe, are well taken in terms of, you know, the necessity of art and culture in our community. So.
Bob, and I want to be clear about something.
Sure.
This is about First Amendment protected free speech. It is my right to speak. That's how I speak.
No.
I speak visually.
No.
And my issue there would be juries paying fees in order to be part of events. You know what? That's really hard on artists who are just expressive in their work, you know, and it's not about how great I can paint in order to say what it is that I want to say through paint. So really, I want to make sure that it's open to everyone. It's not just those exclusive fine artists who happen to be commercially successful in whatever it is that they endeavor to do. It needs to be open to everyone, and that's really what I'm trying to say. So I will look at that master plan.
Good.
But
I appreciate that, and that's
Thank
fine.
you.
You bet, Dominic, okay, very good. And Indian Hills is fine. That's part, you know what, we're all part of the same geographic community up here. Don't worry about that. All right. Anybody else? Mr. White, good morning. How are you doing? Morris?
Morning, Mayor and Board. For the record, Maurice White, Treasurer for the Carson City Airport Authority Board. What the city manager is about to give you there is the budget for the airport that was filed with the Department of Taxation yesterday. It seems that in the recent weeks, there has been some rumors floating around that the airport is perhaps on the verge of becoming insolvent. I want to put those rumors to rest today. You have the budget there in front of you now showing that we will open with a balance of $384,635. We will close with $312,914. Indeed, that does show about a $70,000 backwards motion. However, that is due to lag time and I would say an instability within how the FAA manages reimbursements. Secondarily, there seems to be concern that in year 2021, the airport is entering into a situation where we will have to have $1.7 million for capital improvement projects. Indeed, again, this is a situation brought about by the way the FAA requires these projects to be put into the queue and started moving into their process. These projects won't all happen in 2021. In fact, they probably will be about a 10-year spread there. However, that's what we have to list on our CIP projects to get them into the queue. So that $1.7 million will be spread out over several years. Additionally, the other CIP projects that are coming forward will only be cost in the neighborhood of $30,000 to $70,000 per year for the airport authority. So if you take a look at that budget, you'll see that the airport is not in danger of becoming insolvent.
Thank you, Maurice. Thank you very much, Mr. White. Thank you. Okay. All right. Other public comment for you? Anybody? Okay. If not, as everybody knows, that Epic Rides is coming June 17th, and we have, I told the board, we have a proclamation to read this morning regarding Bike Month, of all things. So if I could indulge during public comment, this proclamation reads as follows. June 2016 Bike Month. It says, whereas the bicycle is an economical, healthy, convenient, and environmentally sound form of transportation and an excellent tool for recreation and enjoyment of Carson City's scenic beauty, and whereas Carson City recognizes bicyclists as legitimate roadway users who are therefore entitled to legal and responsible use of all public roadway facilities in Carson City. And whereas Carson City, recognizing the use of bicycles as a viable mode of transportation, endeavors to promote safe and responsible bicycling. And whereas Carson City has been designated as a bronze-level bicycle-friendly city by the League of American Bicycles, yay. And whereas creating a bicycle-friendly community has been shown to improve citizens' health, well-being, and quality of life, grow the economy, attract tourism dollars, improve traffic safety, and reduce pollution, congestion, and wear and tear on our streets and roads. And whereas Carson City is committed to the inclusion of bicycle facilities as part of the vision of revitalizing Carson City, and whereas throughout the month of June, the residents of Carson City will experience the joys of bicycling through educational programs, community events, or by participating in or watching mountain bike racing in the Epic Off-Road Challenge, or simply getting out and going for a ride. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Robert Kroll, Mayor of Carson City, do hereby proclaim June 2016, as we do every year, Bike Month in Carson City. So we have Kelly Clark here. Kelly, you want to talk to us a little bit?
Certainly. Good morning. For the record, my name is Kelly Clark, 1910 Jocks Way, Carson City, Nevada. And I'm here very proudly today as the president of muscle-powered Citizens for a Walkable and Bikeable Carson City. We are a 501c3, and next year we'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary of active participation in this community. And I just couldn't be prouder. You know, we have in the past celebrated Bike Month in May. And if you were at some of those Bike Month activities, you experienced the snow, the frost, the nip in the nose. And this year we decided that there were really a plethora of reasons to celebrate Bike Month in June. And so we moved Bike Month to June to stay a little warmer, actually, during our bike rides and activities. June 6th through the 10th is Bike to Work Week. And I would challenge the city, bring on a team. We would love to have you participate in the corporate challenge, bike to work, track your miles, track your trips. We're going to be having a party, a bike party with the Brewery Arts Center on June 11th. We're really working on partnerships, and I'm really proud of what Muscle Powered is doing to build partnerships with the Sheriff's Department, with Brewery Arts Center, and businesses in the community. We think it's so important to work collaboratively. So June 11th, coming out to Brewery Arts Center, we're going to have trike races. The music from the Levitt series will be going that night. There's a great band Incendio that night. And then the following week, we actually have a West Side Cruiser ride. Many of you have participated. In fact, I'm looking at Sheriff Furlong. Many of you have participated previously in the Dignitary ride. And Sheriff Furlong rather famously rode that ride with us one year, and everybody thought he might need a coffee cup holder on the front of his bike. But this year, we're combining that Dignitary ride with a West Side Cruiser ride. That will be on June 15th. We're doing it that day because we want to welcome Epic to our community. We're encouraging the mountain bikers to join us on that cruiser ride. We have sent out email invitations to all of you and elected officials and the tourism leaders in this community because we really want to welcome Epic in a big way. And that'll be on Wednesday, June the 15th. And then we're going to have a really fun bike movie night on June the 16th before the real Bike Expo and Epic arrive June 17th, 18th, and 19th. Muscle Powered will be selling T-shirts. We're selling memberships. And I just want to add one more thing. You'll see us starting this Saturday. We'll have our bike valet down at the farmers market. We're working to update the bicycle and pedestrian map here for the city, and we are really excited. We're going to be adding trailheads into that map, so it won't be just an urban map. It'll be showing people the way to get to our beautiful trails. And final word, 10,000 hours our volunteers donated to help build the Ash to Kings Trail, and we're so proud that we just were honored with a Recreational Trails Award by the Coalition for Recreational Trails. It was named an outstanding achievement for community linkage. So we've got a lot going on, and we look forward to working with you. And get out there and ride your bike in June. It's a great time to be out.
I'm sure you'll see a number of us out and around. I think I've graduated to the trike race, so that's where I'm going to go. Anyway, let the hardcore other four up here. They'll do the bike.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good on a bike.
All right. And
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And please convey our thanks to Muscle Powered. I know, you know that we just recently got a national recognition of the trail from Ash to Kings Canyon. A lot of hard work by a lot of people, including Muscle Powered. So thank you for what you guys do. It's wonderful. Okay. And here, take this out there too. Thanks. Thanks, Kelly. Oop. We could show that to Epic folks. Thanks, Kelly. All right. All right. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, I'm very happy today to introduce Jennifer Budge. Jen is the incoming Parks and Rec Director. We're very excited to have her here. I'll let Jen go over her background, but we had over 50 applicants for that position. Jen beat out a very qualified field. We had applicants from all over the country. We narrowed it down to 5 finalists. We did live interviews, and Jen has blown everyone else away. I'm very happy to have her here. She brings a wealth of experience. She's got a great recreation background, got a great parks background, understands the budgeting and the programmatic aspects of the job. And I think Jen will fit in perfectly, not only with the city, but more importantly, she'll fit in perfectly with the community. And I really am happy and very pleased to introduce Jen Budge to y'all.
Welcome to Carson City, Jen.
Thank you so
Why don't you tell us a little about you, what you want to do?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, Supervisors. I first wanted to just thank the city manager for this great opportunity. I'm so excited to be here. I'm just so thankful to be here as well. Already I can see what an exceptional park system that Carson City has, and you should be so proud, and I know the community is so proud of the park system here. Just a little bit about myself. I have over 25 years of parks and recreation experience. Most recently, I come from Washoe County Regional Parks and Open Space. I was there for over 17 years. Most recently, I was the park superintendent, and prior to that, I was in park planning and in recreation. I've also worked for cities of Reno and Sparks and Truckee Downer Recreation and Park District, so it's been a lifelong passion for me to be in the park system. I'm a native Nevadan, born and raised in northern Nevada, so I'm very passionate about the state and the community and all the outdoor opportunities that we have here that's so unique, and that's why everybody's moving here. They love it, and I wouldn't want to leave. It's so great to see my kids grow up in the park system and participate in youth sports, and I'm so passionate about parks, and I appreciate what it brings to the quality of the life in the community. Just to give you a brief outline of what my goals are in the coming months is just to develop some relationships with the staff, and I'm already so impressed with all the staff here. You have some amazing talent within the park system, and they're so passionate about parks, and they work very hard to keep the parks looking so great, and all the recreation opportunities here as well. So over the coming months, I'm going to really look at trying to streamline processes, see how we can support park staff, make them more efficient with what they're doing. We are understaffed, and especially since the recession. So we want to make sure that they're maximizing their time and being efficient, and also providing a good customer service. Another thing I want to do too is do a report card on every park within our system, and that'll probably be something we'll work on in the next year, and really evaluate our aging infrastructure and see what the priorities are for replacement, making sure that we have safe facilities, that we're not, there's a lot of playgrounds, for example, that are really aging, and we need to look at that as for but not only budget priorities, but grant opportunities, so we can help tell that story and try to provide the best facilities, the safest facilities that we can. So that's sort of what I'm looking forward to in the coming months, and I look forward to meeting all of you individually. I know I've met a couple of you already, and just getting to know you as well.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Welcome aboard. So are you moving down here then? Are you going to stay in Reno? What are you going to do?
Well, I live in Reno. I live on the south end of town.
Okay.
So I think we're going to see how it goes for a year.
All right.
My husband works in Reno as well, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're pretty close. That's
Yes.
okay. I think everyone up here and everyone in this community shares your passion for parks and open space. And, and I think I speak for all of us. In 1996, when we passed that Open Space Quality of Life Initiative, one of the bigger things we've done in this community in terms of maintaining our outdoor ability here. So we appreciate you taking a good hard look at what we've got going on and just to make it better.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Jen. All right. All right. Any other public comment? Okay. Then let's move to item 6, the minutes of May 5th. Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Motion's in order if you want to make a
I
motion.
move to approve the minutes of May 5th, 2016 as presented.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Okay, thank you. On the agenda, I've been told we're going to pull 17A, which is the railroad agreement out of the park, and 18A, which is fire. So that would be 17A, and 18A will come back. Any other changes that the board wants to see on the agenda? If not, then unless there's an objection, we'll take the agenda as posted with the exception of pulling 17A and 18A. Now let's recess to the Board of Supervisors, and we'll reconvene as the Liquor and Entertainment Board. The record will reflect that the sheriff is here, so the entire board is present. We'll have public comment now on at the opening of the Liquor and Entertainment Board. Anybody? I don't see any, so let's take up the minutes of April 21 and May 5th. Everybody had a chance to look at those? Motion's in order if you want. Go ahead.
I move to approve the minutes of the Carson City Liquor and Entertainment Board for April 21st, 2016 and May 5th, 2016 as presented.
Motion in a couple seconds. On the motion, discussion. Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried. Unanimous. Okay, let's take up the Talents Athletic Center liquor license. Lena, you want to help us?
This item is for possible action to approve Obaid Mobali as the liquor manager for Talents Athletic Center LLC. Liquor license number 16-31293, located at 2749 North Carson Street. They are applying for a bar with beer and wine only liquor license. Staff is recommending approval.
Good morning, Obaid. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Mayor.
Good to see you
and
again.
Supervisors and Mr. Furlong.
Tell us a little bit about Talents and how do you envision alcohol and what goes on at Talents mixing together?
Talents Athletic Center is an indoor soccer stadium. It's also a kids' entertainment place where we would like to see the community and the kids get involved in it. We have a 20,000 square foot entertainment place, the indoor soccer and bouncy houses. A lot of these places, when the kids come in and they celebrate their parties and birthday parties, and also they play soccer, their adult parents, they want to have a glass of beer while watching soccer. And we would like to see if the community get involved in it. And the reason that we opened this place is there is nothing around this area, Carson, Dayton, Garnerville, and also South Lake Tahoe, an indoor soccer place. Especially in the winter time while there is a lot of snow, this place will be a good place for the kids to get involved. So the liquor is just a small part of this, and we would only do it when the adults are playing. When the adults are around, we don't want to do it while the kids are playing. We completely have a safety guideline and also a guideline that we want to make sure that it's safe for the kids and also for the other parents.
Sheriff, you okay? Sort of.
I'm fine with this gentleman. I would remind everyone that we have had indoor soccer in the past, thanks to Parks and Rec, and combined with alcohol, it has really, had a very negative impact on the environment around. And the challenge here is not so much for what occurs inside the business, it's what occurs outside the business as a result of, as we know, soccer can be very fun and competitive, and when you kick alcohol on board, it can become a challenge to the environment.
Well, what we have done is we don't want to give people that much drink that they go crazy outside. It's just we have also I've put a guideline that we want to make sure we don't serve more than like 2 or 3 drinks, and that's it. And once they leave that place, they have to get out of the whole area. We have security for that. We want to make sure that everybody's safe. And if you go to other soccer stadiums, all of them, they have a liquor and the beer. And it's also a draft beer. They will have it in the plastic caps. They will not have bottles that they go crazy on it. And we want to make sure, since it's a private business on our own, we want to make sure we keep the safety of everybody in there. And we will not jeopardize this business. It's a very good business, and the passion that we have for soccer, we will not end it up just because of the beer and wine license,
You currently have a Carson City liquor license?
Yes, I do, sir.
How long have you had that?
I have the country store since 2001 and the smoke shop, which is the Northside Smoke Shop, since 2009. And I've been in business, and Mr. Furlong knows me very well, that we want to make sure that, we follow the law and we don't do anything to jeopardize the business. And I have kids in this area, and we want to make sure we don't do anything that sell alcohol to underage, and I have been prevented that. And I was the first one that I bought the ID visor in Carson City to make sure my cashiers follow that. And since then, we had one time, and I think it was about 7 or 8 years, we had one of the cashiers that was getting a little old and couldn't see the IDs and had a problem, but that was it. Other than that, in this many years, we have been always following the rule, and everything has been good.
Kenny, calls for service at the existing locations have been how?
He's an excellent gentleman, businessman here in town.
Thank you.
Go.
So maybe just a general question. If this particular location became an issue, is there a method then to revoke the license if it gets out of control?
Not without coming to this board, no.
But there is a method that you could come to the board to say, or work with the applicant to say, this isn't working out. We're getting 10 calls a week at your facility, and you would then stop selling if it became a safety issue?
Of course, we will do that because, the safety of the place and the kids and the community. The reason that we are getting the alcohol, it's not that we're going to sell tons of alcohol to people and get the people drunk. We're not going to be a bar. We basically be a place where if somebody wants to just have a drink, they can have a drink, and after their kids their game is over, they can go home, and that's it. It's not going to be a place that's going to be open all the time for people to come in and have a drink. So we want to make sure we prevent that.
I want to add that in his application, when he went through the planning department, he did submit an hours of operation schedule where he does have the youth leagues Mondays and Fridays, where there will not be alcoholic beverages available on that day. Adult leagues are Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, where alcohol beverages will be available, and during special events and parties by reservation only. He is planning on being open from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week, except major holidays, if that helps.
Okay. Go.
So, Adriana, do we have the ability to condition a license to say, we'll approve the license, but you can't sell alcohol during the youth sports leagues?
You can put conditions on pretty much anything on his license. And if you wanted to do that, if you could do it when you do a motion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And if we did that, would you have an objection to that?
No, I don't have no objections, but it's going to be some of the days like Lena said about the days. We have to move around some of the leagues. Like right now we have adults league on Saturday, and it will be moved to Monday. So once it moved to Monday, and then we have to move the kids to some other days. Because of everybody in Carson City, they play some other places, especially when it's summertime, they play outdoor too. So we have to accommodate that. Since this is an indoor place, a lot of people like to play it in winter, not in summertime. So summer, we have to kind of bend for them to see whatever the timing is good for them that they want to play that, so we can adjust the days. Like we're trying to move the Saturday to Monday, and the kids will have to move on Saturday mornings. So there's few changes, but we will not sell when the kids are playing. Like when the U10, U12, they are over there to play, there will be no alcohol available.
So the key question would be, would you ever have a situation where you would have youth league and adult leagues playing at the same time?
We will only have probably once, maybe a year, a tournament, and it will be a youth tournament starting from U10 and up. And that will be the only time it's special events, but it will not be on a regular scheduled days for us.
So how would you handle that one tournament?
Well, we'll have to, like I said, we have limited, for each person that come in, and we will have a wristband for them to get like maybe the most like 3 drinks, and that's it. And there are other places like indoor soccer, while even they have kids playing, they have alcoholic beverage available, like the Reno Sports Dome. That's the only place in Reno, which is a big facility. Kids go play, and they have a bar where the parents can sit down and have a drink while their kids are playing. But we will not have the kids. We will not have alcohol beverage available on the day that the kids play, because there's a lot of kids coming in. And we want to prevent that. As a parent, I don't want to expose my kids into that situation. So we want to make sure. But the thing is, soccer is a huge community in this area. And when the kids come and play, the parents come in also to watch. And when the parents are playing, the kids and all the family come and watch. So it's a very, very different kind of situation, that we don't say that it's going to be an adult league. It's going to be 100% all adults. It cannot be 100% adults. Their kids come in, their wife comes in, their sister, their mom. Everybody is getting involved into this because they want to come and watch. If it's my son's soccer, my wife, my other family members come in. If it is my day of soccer, my kids and my wife and my family, they want to come and see me. So it's going to be a very different situation, but we want to make sure that we control this. We do not, expose the kids into this situation.
So from listening to your testimony, my first thought was, well, we'll just put a condition on that says if you have youth tournaments playing, then we'll just say you can't sell alcohol, but it seems like it's a little more complex than that. Mm-hmm. And we're also hearing that you have experience in Carson City and that you've been very responsible. So at this point, I think, for me at least, the best avenue would be just to grant the license. And if there's problems in the future, then we can bring it back in front of the board and address it. But I think at this point, I'm willing to trust that you will run your business as you see fit.
Thank you very much. And I do my best to make sure that I don't jeopardize anything in our business, in our community. The reason that I bought this soccer place is 100% for the kids and for the community, because we don't have anything facility in Carson City. We go all the way to Reno, especially in wintertime, it's so hard crossing Washoe with the kids and with the snow that you go there and you're going to play 1 hour of soccer and come back. But this is a very good area, Carson City. The community is developing. Like Mr. Mayor, we have also partnered with Soccer for You, and we give them a space where Soccer for You will have a chance over there to serve the community. And also we have partnered with AYSO. AYSO is a nonprofit organization in Carson City and been in soccer involved for a very, very long time. So we have given them a place where the kids gonna come in and register. And we also have NFL flag football. We are the only authorized agent in Carson City that we have the flag football for the kids. So we're trying to get the community in this area, develop a sportsmanship and get them out of other, drugs and, other bad stuff. We want to get the community involved in this.
Very good. Obey, do we have, Supervisor Shirk has a couple questions or comments. Jim?
No, I just want to make a statement, too. I don't have a problem with you selling alcohol at these events. We see it numerous places where there's sporting events, from golf to baseball to everything, where alcohol is served with minors in the stadium, I guess you could say.
Yes.
I think it's up to you as an individual business owner to make sure that this is done properly and correctly, and I have faith in you that you will do this. Otherwise, I'm sure there's consequences down the line. So
exactly.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Any public comments on this issue? I don't see any. Okay. Motions, or Supervisor Abad, go.
I move to approve Obaid Mabali, I probably slaughtered the name, as the liquor manager for Talents Athletic Center LLC, liquor license number 16-31293, located at 2749 North Carson Street.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion?
Just as a discussion item.
Discussions on the
I know we're looking at all of the liquor license provisions, so maybe if there's any issue that deals with revocation or multiple calls, this might be an area that you can look to address administratively if needed, just when you're doing your review consider this option
I'm
too.
already working with Adriana on that.
Okay, we have a,
And I just want to say thank you for taking on Talon's Athletic Center.
Thank you. It is a big challenge. It's a big facility, and we're actually excited. I'm a soccer player. I've been a soccer player since childhood, and I would like to see soccer develop in this area, and I think it will be good. We also have bubble soccer for adults. We're trying to get over 35 league for bubble soccer. It's a lot of fun. You know, you can knock other guys out with bubble soccer and nobody gets hurt. So it's a lot of fun.
all right,
Yeah.
bring that in here sometime. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, any further discussion on the motion? I don't see any on the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thanks, Obaid. Thanks for doing it, and go do good work, okay? Take care of the kids. All right. Let's take up Kingley, the Panda Kitchen issue. You're gonna, okay?
This item is for possible action to approve Lee Chang as the liquor manager for Kingley LLC, doing business as Panda Kitchen and Sushi. Liquor license number 16-31410, located at 1986 East William Street. They are applying for a dining room with beer and wine, liquor license only. Staff is recommending approval. They have purchased the business from the previous owner.
Okay, any questions of the, anybody? Public comment? Anybody? Want to say anything? Don't have to.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm from Panda Kitchen and Sushi. This place from Carson City over 30 years now. And my family just buy last month, 26th, we take over. And just all regular customer, over 70 years and 80 years, and not too much. Not too much alcohol to serve because all old people. And I'm from Reno. I'm a sushi chef. I work at sushi about 13 years. I'm from Sushi Pier too. And yeah, and just like that. Yeah, so people.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Questions? Anybody? Motion's in order.
I move to approve Leanne Chang as liquor manager for Kingley LLC, DBA Panda Kitchen and Sushi, liquor license 16-31410, located at 1986 East William Street.
Second.
Motion in a couple seconds on the motion. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. All right. All right, well, now on concluding public comment under liquor and entertainment issues. This is item 13. Anybody concluding public comment? I don't see any. Then unless there's an objection, we will adjourn as the Liquor and Entertainment Board and we'll reconvene as a Board of Supervisors. We'll take up item 16. This is potential removal of taxes and penalties from unsecured 2013-14 tax roll in the amount of $179.82. Morning, Mr. Dolly. How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, Dave Dolly, Carson City Assessor's Office, and I'm doing great. Thank you very much for asking. Again, this year we're coming back and we're asking you to remove taxes that we've been unable to collect. And I kind of just wanted to give you an idea of how we go about trying to collect these to begin with. First off, we will be working with the property or with the business owner if they become delinquent to try and make payment arrangements with them if they're having financial difficulties and so forth. If we find that they're not willing to work with us at that point, then we'll either lien property that they have if they own it. We will also try and work with them and tell them, you know, we don't want to seize your property, but we will if we have to for the delinquent taxes, because that's what Nevada law says we have to do. We've also used the district attorney's office. They've been very great with sending out demand letters for us, and we worked with the code enforcement officer, Kevin McCoy, to help us also. He issues citations, unfortunately, if they don't pay. But these we've found that we've been unable to pay or unable to get the money from, and we can no longer find them. moved. They've taken their equipment with them, so we've not been able to get the taxes that are owed. And as you can see, I mean, as I come back year to year, the amount of these is going down. We were at one point, you know, asking you to write off about $5,000 worth of taxes. Now it's less than $180. So we're very pleased, and my staff's doing a very good job with collecting taxes.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Supervisor Pankowski, go.
Yeah, I just wanted to commend you, Dave. You know, you and I have worked pretty extensively on some of this and trying to determine what personal property belongs to what company, especially with serial LLCs. So your staff and yourself have just done an excellent job, and so thank you for that.
Anybody else? Motions in order. Somebody want to make a motion? Motions, go.
I move to approve the removal of the taxes and penalties from the unsecured 2013-14 tax roll for the following unsecured account numbers: AB 51085, Berkovec, Kenneth L., CB 40030, Cash Pro, CB 42063, Santa Cruz Tanning Company, and CB 45510, BOGO Discount, and CB 45618, secularphilosophy.net, in the amount of $179.82.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Dave, let's take up the next one, 16B, the Technology Fund report, required by law. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, we're once a year we come and report to you the technology. This technology fund was created, and how it's funded is actually 6%, or there's 8% that's collected from the personal property taxes. 6% of that goes to the general fund, and then the assessor's office is allowed to keep 2% for the purchase of technology. It's not only for the purchase of technology from our department, but for any department in the city that can benefit from using our process. As you can see from the purchases we made last year, we did acquire an Apex licensing for the building department because we use Apex, and that helps them actually when they're trying to value the properties for the permits itself. We also, one of our major purchases was for the pictometry flyover, and we have 500 licenses on that particular software, and so we encourage everybody in the city to use it. I do know that the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department use it very heavily. And it's a wonderful program where you can actually see the property at a 45-degree angle instead of seeing it straight down, so you can actually see where doors, windows are, and so forth, and it's very beneficial. We are actually going to be keeping any excess funds that we have this year because we are committed to one more flyover, and that flyover is going to be conducted next March. In addition, I do want to talk real quickly about a bill that's working its way through the Nevada legislature, and it's called SJR 13. And what SJR 13 is it's actually changing the way that Nevada values property for property taxes. Currently, we're using the replacement cost program. It's replacement cost less depreciation each year, plus market value for the land. SJR 13 wants to change it and make it a market value approach. And so we would actually be valuing property on a sale. If a property sells, then that's what the market value would be. There are some major issues with SJR 13, and one of the biggest ones is the fact that if a property value goes down, say 20 or 30%, the law says that we can only lower the value 3%, and so that's a huge issue. But with this SJR 13, we've already talked about trying to figure out what it's going to cost in order to get us the programming necessary for it, because we have no market value programming at all. 15 of the 17 counties don't have it because we're all combined. We all use one program to try and save money. In Carson City, it's going to cost about $250,000 to get new programming in order to implement this SJR 13. And so we only really get between about $45,000 and $55,000 each year. So we're not going to have the necessary funds in order to get the camera program that we're going to need if this does pass the legislature and pass the vote of the people. And so we're definitely going to be coming back to ask you for money. But we're also going to be asking the Nevada legislature, because this is an unfunded mandate, we're going to be asking them to help with the programming cost, because the smaller counties, Carson City as well as Esmeralda County, they just don't have the funds necessary to implement the changes of the programming that this is going to entail. So roughly that's just my report.
Well, I appreciate that, and keep us up to date. I'm sure you will on SJR 13, because I think, you know, where that is in the process right now is, it was passed in 2015, now it's got to get passed again, then it goes to a vote? Is that what it is?
Yes, sir. It was passed the first time, and it has to pass word for word the second time. And then if it's passed, it will go to a vote of the people come November of 2018. I've been meeting with Fiscal, LCB Fiscal, and a number of other groups to try and figure out how the implementation of this is going to go. And the process that we're having now is the fact that if it's passed by a vote of the people the first week of November, the Supreme Court will have 2 weeks in order to count the vote. And then at that point, we have to send out our assessment notices based on a new value method. And we won't even have the software in place by that time. So we don't want to have to spend $250,000 on something that we don't know is going to pass. And so I know Fiscal has been working with LCB Legal to try and figure out how they're going to do that. This is a constitutional change. It's not an amended change. This is going to change the Nevada Constitution. So how do you not implement something that is a constitutional change when it was supposed to be implemented? There's a whole huge implementation issue that's coming along with this. So.
Sounds like fun. I saw it in 2015. Okay, all right. Any questions, Mr. Dolly? Dave, just one concluding question. What do you do with the flyover, the data from the flyover? How do you use that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we do is we're required by law to be out at the property every year, or I'm sorry, once every 5 years. And the problem is we don't actually get out. We don't knock. We don't actually go through the house to see what's going on. So we try to figure out any kind of changes that are made, but we can't look in the backyards. And so when the Department of Taxation does a ratio study on us, which they do every 3 years to make sure that we're in compliance with Nevada law and codes, they actually do go in the backyards. And so we keep getting written up for items or any improvements that were done in the backyards that we don't know anything about. And so we use it here to find all of the improvements that are in the backyards. But I do know that the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department, they actually use it to, if they've got a situation going on, to be able to plan how or where they're going to put their people or access to the property, if they need to get access to the property.
Good. Thanks, Dave. All right. Anything else from Dave? All right. This is information only, correct? No. No. Yeah, we got to approve this one. That's right. Go.
I move to accept the annual technology fund report from the Carson City Assessor per NRS 250.085, showing expenditures of $44,680.98, with 2% of the unsecured personal property taxes collected through April 15 in the amount of $48,679, leaving a balance of $97,176.02.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thanks, Dave. All right. All right, 17A and 18A have been pulled, so we'll now move to item 19. Ms. Paulson and Ms. Burketta, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the board. The first item before you is action to approve the employee retiree health and dental plan with Prominence. We were able to negotiate a rate pass on the medical and a 1.8% increase on the dental.
So say that again, please. You were able to negotiate a rate what? Pass.
Right, so there will be a 0% increase for the medical plan, except for the PPO plan, which has a 12.7% increase, but we only have 3 retirees on that plan.
Okay.
And that's for out-of-state usage of the plan.
Supervisor Bonkowski.
So this is your opportunity to shine, to tell everybody what a great job you're doing negotiating contracts for us and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're saving the city through your negotiating tactics. And you spent about 5 seconds doing that, so I'll do it for you. You guys are doing a great job, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was pretty long. All right, yeah, go.
So can you tell me, when do you think we'll have to start the negotiation to get ready for next year when it all stops? So are we going to see an RFP pretty soon, or what's your plan?
So the first step will be to hire a broker to conduct the RFP for our medical and dental plan for the next year. I expect that we'll start that process, although we don't need to issue an RFP for a broker. More than likely, that's what staff will decide to do. We will start that process in the summer or fall, and then issue the RFP. The problem is if we issue the RFP too soon, our claims loss ratio experience, which is what the rates are based on, we won't have much experience for the broker to use. So yet we also run into the fact that finance needs to know what the number is by April in order to have the budget completed. So it's a tug of war every year, but we do plan to get started hopefully late summer, early fall on the broker, and then we'll have the RFP issued based on what the broker recommends, more than likely early winter, and we'll go from there.
Melanie, just so you know, for the record, I've talked to the city manager about possibly discussing with either League of Cities or NACO if there's an appetite for municipalities to work together in an insurance cooperative such that we get better rates, that you got something else to work from, that so you're not held hostage.
Okay, thank you. We did used to do that for our liability and our work comp insurance. It wasn't very successful. I do know that most of the local governments in this area there's one or two brokers that they use, so they know what rates people are getting. And we've been keeping a close eye on that as well with our surrounding neighbors.
Yeah, I just want to make one final comment. The mayor said I took too long, but I'm going to take a little longer. The savings, if you had not negotiated with Prominence and we had just accepted the rate increase that was in the contract, the 4%, the cost difference between where we're at today and what that difference in premium would have been is the equivalent of replacing the roof on the aquatic facility. So I just want to put that out there, that you basically just bought the roof for the aquatic facility for the taxpayers. And so I just think that it's important that the citizens understand that we are always working with vendors to get the best rate possible, and those savings, we certainly can put them to good use.
Sometimes it's hard to pat yourself on the back. What is that whole thing?
I'm not very good at it,
Hard to
but
beat your own drum,
it does help when you have an HR director who has a legal background.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, other comments or questions from the board? Public comments or questions? I don't see any. Motions and orders.
Okay. I move to approve the employee retiree health and dental insurance contracts with Prominence Health Plan.
Motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor. I'm sorry, Jim.
I do want to pass along congratulations for doing a great job for the city. If it bought the roof for the aquatic center, that's great. Just cut a check for us and we'll start finishing the roof tomorrow. But you do a great job, as do many city staff personnel. So I congratulate you and other city staff individuals who work with you to do this for us. So thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate everyone that I work with too. They work very hard for the city and the residents and the taxpayers.
On the motion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you. Okay. All right, let's take up city manager issue on.
I think your next item is the unclassified resolution.
Right, go. I'm sorry.
So before you is a request to amend the unclassified resolution, basically keeping the resolution in line with the board's approval of the budget, and that would increase the ranges for the salary ranges that were approved with the CCA contract and also with the budget 1.75%. When we went from our compensation schedule that we had in the past to the current one, we combined all of the positions into one compensation schedule. So this just keeps in line. Basically, it's a housekeeping matter at this point in time. It keeps in line with what you guys approved in the budget. The only other addition was that we clarified that retirees who stay on the city's insurance also receive the CC Cares benefit. And the reason we give that to our employees is because we know that our employees have insurance and that our fire department will be compensated for transfers if that were to occur.
Just as a point of clarification, so that we're not confused between this item and the next item that does deal with the city manager, this resolution does not move the city manager's pay scale by 1.75, because we have to handle that in the contract terms, and I just wanted to clarify if I had that correct.
I believe you do. That's correct. This board set the city manager's salary range in January of 2014.
Okay.
And that
Controlled by
range
contract.
is controlled by, in the employment contract.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
Public comment? Board?
Resolution number, Kathy?
2016 R7.
I move to approve Resolution 2016 R7, a resolution that replaces Resolution number 2013 R44, a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Carson City setting forth the benefits for unclassified employees.
There's a motion, and a second on the motion. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Do we need a minute to fire stuff up or not?
If you would not mind, Mr. Mayor, we
All right,
take a few
We'll
minutes
be in
here.
recess for about 5 or 10 minutes here. Then we'll take up the city manager's evaluation. You ready? Okay. We're going to call a meeting of the Board of Supervisors back to order. We're now on item number 19C. This is review and evaluate the performance of our city manager. Nick, you want to just talk us through? We had some IT issues here. You want to go ahead? Yeah.
So, good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. I had intended to put up our survey results from Carson City Connect, but I'll just kind of walk you through it. But before I do that, let me lead off with, this has, I think, been a phenomenal year for the city. I've been very fortunate to be the city manager here during this time. We've been very busy. Obviously, we've got not only major city capital projects that are in progress right now, but we also have quite a bit of private development that is under some form of review. In fact, there's about 3,500 additional dwelling units that are in some phase of review by our community development department. So that includes everything from, like the Schultz Ranch, where they've actually pulled some building permits, to a development where we're looking at a conceptual map. So on that whole continuum, there's about 3,500 dwelling units that are under some form of review. To put that number into context, there's probably a little less than 21,000 dwelling units currently in Carson City. So that represents a pretty significant number. Your city staff has been extremely busy over this past year, and they've done a remarkable job in terms of developing a culture of continuous process improvement. When I speak to the department directors, when I speak to community groups, I cite a recent Pew organization poll. If you're familiar with the Pew organization, they do annual polling on trust in various organizations, everything from religion to the military, law enforcement, government, and so on. Not surprisingly, this year, trust in government hit a 60-year low. Now, that was mainly the federal government, and there's a lot of reasons for that we don't need to go into here, but state government did a little better than the federal government, and local government did the best out of any of the three federal, state, or local government in this poll. However, those numbers were still underwater. And what I mean by that is more people felt that local government was not meeting their needs than people who thought that local government was meeting their needs. So when I talk to my department directors, when I talk to the city employees, when I talk to community groups, I talk about the challenge that I see is to restore faith in government one resident at a time. And I think the way that we do that is a couple of different ways, actually. Number one, we need to change the way that we deliver government services, and I'm going to talk a little bit in detail about that. Number two, we need to open up the process to create more transparency and more ability for community members not only to see where the tax dollars are coming from and where the tax dollars are going, but to also, oh great, okay, they got the survey results that I want to show. So, but also to show where the tax dollars are going, because that's an important part of feeling that you have some stake in the community and that the community is listening to you. At a recent forum, that was a theme that had come up, and I think incorrectly, in that no one in city government is listening. In fact, we've created numerous venues and numerous means for citizens to communicate directly in a very simple way to government, and we respond. I'm going to talk for a moment about Carson City Connect, because in that same forum, there was a common theme that city employees have lost their focus on service to the community. That is categorically and that is provably false. And I'm going to use Carson City Connect as an example. As you know, a little less than a year ago, in fact, in August of 2015, we rolled out Carson City Connect. This is both a smartphone and a web-based app, and it provides the average resident the ability to gain information on frequently asked questions, everything from code enforcement, animal services, building, you name it. So residents can easily access information, or they can, in a very simple way, file a service request, everything from a pothole to maybe a tree that's overhanging their sidewalk. The standard that I have given to the department directors is within 24 hours, that resident is going to get contacted by a human. And we're going to get additional information, and we're going to be out there within 2 days, and we're going to look at the problem, and if we can take care of it, we're going to take care of the problem. And we have. And the results from Carson City Connect have actually provided great feedback in terms of how well we're doing. So if I can get your attention up at the on the display right now, you'll see that for the period from September 1st through a couple of days ago, we've had a total of 513 service requests that have come in via Carson City Connect. We've closed 371 surveys have been sent out, and 147 surveys have been returned. So look at employee effectiveness first. 80% of the residents rate employee effectiveness superior. So you can add in another 14% who say it's good. That's 94% who say that your employees are extremely effective at what they're doing. Time to respond, similar numbers, 79% superior. You can see the good numbers. Again, that puts that over 90% as well in terms of timeliness. Eric, if you can scroll down just a little bit, please. Employee courtesy, and I have hammered this one home. The department directors have had to hammer it home, but guess what? This one didn't need to be hammered home. Your employees are extremely professional. They're extremely courteous. They help out residents. They explain the process. They're very good at it. The guys and gals that are out that have the road guard vests on and have the hard hats, with helmets and shovels in their hands are very good at dealing with the public. They didn't need any encouragement. They didn't need any training in that. They've been doing that pretty effectively from the time they started. So you can see that number, 86% employee courtesy. That's a great indication of how well we're doing. Finally, let's look at expectations met. This is the bottom line. How well did we do? Again, 93% of the people said we either met or exceeded their expectations. So your city employees are extremely effective at meeting the needs of the community. And this is what I talk about changing the way we deliver government services. This is an individually tailored world that we're moving to. If you've gone to some of the new fast food or some of the fast food restaurants where they have the new drink machine, and you can get whatever blend of different sodas or different drinks that you want. You can even customize it and have it saved to your iPhone, and you just walk up and that machine will spit out whatever your exact blend is of the drink you want. That's how our society is going, and government has to match that, and we're working hard at it. So people are very concerned about the condition of the infrastructure in the city. And when they fill out a Carson City Connect request, we're going to go out, we're going to take care of it. And that request is going to go to the top of the list. Again, it's a change in paradigm. We're not just going to have our own city-based prioritization, but as residents request the city to come out and take a look at it, we're going to take care of their problem. And we're going to take care of it quickly. And we're going to provide them feedback when we're done. And I think if you look at some of the more recent initiatives as well, the RTC has now directed the transportation director to put together a citizens advisory panel. We've called it our traffic panel that will help the city plan and prioritize street maintenance as we move forward. So we're going to have greater resident input into how we plan, prioritize, and fund street maintenance. Again, we're changing the way that we deliver government services. We're opening up. We're getting more resident feedback. I know you've probably seen our new website. If you go to the city's homepage, there's a live chat function right on the homepage. And we've been inundated. We've only had it up. Yeah, if you could go to the homepage, Eric. We've only had this up for a little over 24 hours, and we've been inundated. You see in the bottom right corner there, he just clicked it on. So again, just like Carson City Connect, the resident doesn't need to know, who do I call? Do I call Public Works? Do I call Parks? Doesn't matter. It's totally transparent to the resident. You just fill out what you want to know, click on the button, and we'll communicate directly with you and provide the information that you need. Again, more transparency, opening up the process, allowing greater public participation in the process. And that's what I mean by not only changing the way we deliver government services, but providing greater openness and greater transparency to it. We've already covered some of the other items of transparency over the past few months, the open budget, the open expenditure. The only thing I want to point out at this stage, Eric, if you go to the performance dashboard, performance measures, it's under transparency. So one of the objectives I have moving forward, and it's one when we get to that point that I'm going to recommend in terms of my own performance objectives for the coming year, is the city move to a performance-based budgeting format. So we're kind of building the plane as we fly it, so to speak. But this is the dashboard we've just created that has our performance measures that directly nest into the strategic plan that the city did a little over a year ago. So again, the thought process behind performance-based budgeting is to align the city priorities, the city department level priorities, and our performance measures here with our strategic goals and objectives that this board develops. So again, it provides the ability of the elected representatives of the people to say, this is what's important to us. Now, city staff go out and accomplish it. And oh, by the way, I want to be able to measure how effective you are at doing what I said, or what the residents have said are the priorities for our community. So again, we're going to build the plane as we fly it. I've got a lot of work to do in terms of coming up with the right. Eric, if you could just click on one of these so people can see what this is going to look like. So these are going to be very detailed measures. We've got some work to do to come up with exactly the right measures that nest correctly into our strategic plan. And I apologize for the slowness of our internet connection here. Kind of goes against everything I'm saying about improving our technology. But again, here's what the dashboard looks like. This will tell you how well we're doing in our water resource recovery facility. And again, there's hyperlinks also on this page, but it'll give the average person and it'll give a board member the ability to look at how effective is city staff in doing what I think city staff should be doing. So again, this is where we're going over the next year. You're going to see this page improve. I wanted to get it out there so you can see what this is going to look like, and so you can visualize in your mind how this is all going to fit together, how the strategic goals and objectives are going to fit together with budgeting decisions, and then how you're going to be able to easily and kind of near real time on a monthly basis, you'll be able to see how effective are the departments at meeting what those requirements are. So this is what we're going to work on over the coming year. I've been really happy with the progress to date from every department. I want to really thank Eric, the Chief Information Officer. He's really embraced the culture of change. I need to have a couple of change agents on the staff. So I really want to thank Eric. He's embraced that. And he's really helped in terms of getting the display. So that's the long and the short of it, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Well, Mr. City Manager, let me say, I really want to compliment you on taking the approach that we need to change the way we interact with our constituents in the community here, and making it more technologically feasible, and creating a place where we have a good sense of place. And, you know, I don't know if I shared with you, but if anybody takes The Economist magazine, there's a great article in The Economist magazine that came out about a month and a half ago that says that, you know, communities, successful communities, are doing exactly what you've just gone through today. I mean, it's using technology, it's data-driven, data sharing, and so that we all have a sense of feeling of participation. And I know, and you know, from my own perspective, I will say that, and I've mentioned this before, that, you know, when you mentioned to me one time, you know, Mr. Mayor, this is 2016, we have to do business differently. It's one person at a time. You have to do these things, and that's how we're going to deal with things. And so, you know, my hat's off to you, and I know we'll be talking about the goals here. You know, and I want to talk a little bit about, you know, performance budgeting versus, you know, where we've been in the past on some of the things that we've set up in the past. But you've had a whole lot on your plate. And, you know, I credit it to you and your background for being able to handle, you know, an animal shelter, an athletic center, downtown, a 3rd Street, Carson City Connect, the website, all that stuff, parks, open space, you know. And at the same time, I know you're out there walking and talking to people. I know I see you on Carson Street a lot, talking to the businesses down there. You know, you make time. And I haven't, you know, we're never going to make everybody happy, but we have to try. And I know that, you know, I've never had anybody tell me that you failed to return a phone call to them. Never had anybody tell me that. And so, you know, I want to thank you for that. And so we'll just take it from there. And I think Supervisor About's got next, and we'll go around here.
And Nick, I just want to say I have been so impressed with your ability to handle critical issues and provide immediate responses, and your attention to detail with regards to that. I can't thank you enough for your attention to SART, and Adriana can testify to that as well. You saw a need and worked with all entities involved to make sure that it worked forward in our community. And that's just one example of the many things that you've stepped up to do. So I want to thank you for that.
Morning, Nick. You know, I get pretty analytical sometimes. So, you know, I look at your job performance and I try to break it down into, when we interviewed you, what did you say you were going to do? And then what have you done? I see governance as and your goals as being a 3-legged stool. You mentioned some of them, more transparency, better delivery of services, and the third one being more efficient management on our assets. I think that you've created ambitious but realistic goals. As the mayor said, you had an enormous amount on your plate when you took this job. And I love your phrase, continuous process improvement. That's what I have seen from you over the last 2 years, is continuous process improvement. You can't correct everything overnight, but you're putting a plan in place for a lot of major components of how we govern here in Carson City, and you're making progress on all fronts. And so my expectation from you is to continue exactly what you're doing, and in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, we are going to change the face of Carson City and how we govern and how we do business. So I am very happy with your job performance. I think that you have delivered exactly what you told us that you would deliver, but you're only 40% of the way to getting to your goals because you've only been on the job for 2 years. So I'm very happy with where we're at with you.
I think Brad kind of took my analytical piece. I'm kind of that kind of person too, as you all know. Yeah. But what I really want to say is that the position of city manager, to me, has the highest expectations. And so it's difficult for me to rate a city manager as meeting, above, super, outstanding, because it is the highest expectations. And so what I want to say is that I appreciate that you take direction. And I know that you have 5 different bosses, and we probably have 5 different directions that we'd like you to select as our priorities, not necessarily your own priority, and that I really appreciate that you try to share that you really try to help each of us meet what our goals are. So I want to tell you thank you for that, because I know that it's almost impossible to please 5 bosses, and that you're trying. So thank you for that. And sorry, I just want you to do the best all the time, because it's just what's required of a city manager. So thank you.
You know, Nick, I think from when you came aboard to where we're at today, there's a significant difference of where we were, where we are today, and where we're heading tomorrow. And I think if you look at your leadership, it has a trickle-down effect to the department heads, too. I see your ability to take and work with other individuals underneath you or your staff, and has brought their level of expectation up even higher. They were doing a great job. They're doing, I don't know how to say that, a greater job, better, I don't know. But it's changed. Your philosophy, your position on things have changed the city dramatically. It's night and day difference. I see that. You know, I listed some of the qualities I think I highly admire in you. And one of them, you have great communication skills. You're able to talk to people, can communicate things really, really well. I think you have good judgment. I think you make good, sound decisions. I think your dedication to your position, I don't think a lot of people see that, but I certainly do, and I do appreciate the dedication you put into your position for this community. I believe your organizational skills have helped the city immensely change directions and how we do things and how we funnel the projects through. I appreciate it. And I really appreciate your adaptability, how you can adapt to any circumstances or any problems that we have and come with a solution. Your level-headed attitude, I like it. I like it a lot. It showed me that I should be doing the same thing, so I'm stealing that from you. I like your problem solving. When you do have a problem, when somebody, well, I can only speak for myself, but when I contact you with a problem, you have a solution. And if you don't, you say, I'll get back to you. And I really do appreciate your ability to engage with the community. I think that says a lot about who you are, not as a city manager, but as a citizen within the community where you live and your family lives. I think that speaks high volumes of who you are as a person. So in that respect, you're doing a great job.
Nick, talk to me a little bit about performance-based budgeting and where you think that's going to go and how you're going to implement that.
Well, I think over the next year, you're going to see, let me scroll to the very top. Excuse me one second. Yeah. So if you look up on the display, actually, yeah, you can leave it right there. That's fine. So if you look on the display, what I think the next year's priority is going to be to bring this so that we're ready to start making budgeting decisions is, number one, internal to each department, the correct measures that feed directly into not only the strategic plan, but the budgeting process. So the measure has to be something that is both measurable from an output point of view, you know, the level of service type, but it's also something on the input, depending on the level of resources that we provide, that it's something that we can measure and adjust. So the big effort internal to city staff is to develop and align the correct measures to our strategic plan. I do think we're going to need to take another retreat and and take another look at the city strategic plan, because I think the city strategic plan also needs to be built with that in mind, that those goals and objectives now are going to drive all the budgeting decisions and all the levels of service that go into all those decisions. So I think, to answer your question, Mr. Mayor, there's going to be two primary routes we're going to go down. One, internal to the city staff, developing the right measures that feed into our plan, and then two, together with the board and the community, I think we're going to need to take another look at our strategic plan so that all of this does fit together. And I think it would be a good opportunity as well for the community to have greater involvement. If you look at what we did this year, if you look at what the CFO did during our budget open houses, I think that's the same type of format we need to do with our strategic plan. We need to do a couple of different open houses so that the community has an opportunity to provide input. I think there's different technology we could use to also make surveys available online. The city used to do surveys a number of years ago. Supervisor Shirk gave me a copy of one. I think it'd be a good idea to incorporate surveys of the community and workshops with the community into that strategic level planning process. So I think again, internal city staff, we've got quite a bit of work to do, but then I think together with the board and the community, there's going to be some work too over the next year.
Yeah, I think the board, don't mean to speak for all of us, but I think that performance-based budgeting has been something we've been wanting to get moved towards, and we're working down that road with active strategies, and we just kind of never got it off the ground because we couldn't measure the outputs. I mean, it was just too voluminous to do that, and so, I'm glad to see that you're going to take up the ball on that and move it forward. I mean, because it's not just as snap of the fingers and you turn on performance-based budgeting. You got to really put a lot of thought into that. So, and I'm glad to hear what you just said. So, but I think performance-based budgeting is where we ought to be going in this community.
Bob, can I this tacks onto this? Nick, you gave me a great example yesterday with regard, or day before yesterday, with regards to how your experience informs that zero-based budgeting is not the way to go. Can you just elaborate on that briefly so that the public knows?
Sure. Yeah, I actually had a little bit of experience with this when I was in the Department of Defense. Some of the departments actually took on a zero-based budgeting philosophy. So, I mean, just to come up with just to generalize the whole process briefly, every department would start at zero. That's hence the name zero-based budgeting. So then every service or every capability, every employee that is provided above zero, the department justifies what that level of service is, what the requirement is in terms of resources, in terms of people, and so on, and you build your budget that way. That's an enormous project, and what I explained to Supervisor Abald was, in practice, what happened was we reverse engineered it. The departments knew the number they wanted to hit and reverse engineered the process. So in other words, they had already started with the result they were looking for and reverse engineered the whole process so that it would come up with that number. In theory, zero-based budgeting is a great idea. And maybe in the right circumstances it would work out, but it was an enormous project. It took quite a bit of staff time for us to just get to the level that we had been for the previous year in terms of all the documents that are required for oversight and so on. Did that answer your question? Okay.
So in general, I'm real excited that this is the direction we're going. From the audit committee, we have been working on setting performance indicators as the actual baseline. And so I want to say I really believe we're going in the right direction to tie in everything that we do. And the real issue for me in budgeting is that we make sure that the service we're providing is, one, still needed, and that you're forced to review it at that level, at the performance and whether or not the program is still necessary. That, to me, is more important than a zero-based. And so I really like how we started this year at the board level, picking one large department and one smaller department to begin to dissect the activities that that department performs and provides, and the value of that to the community and to the whole process. So I really think this all ties in, and I hope that you will task and continue to task the audit committee with validating the actual measure. Because I think that the city manager is right. One of the most important things we can do is actually validate the measure so that we know whether we're on target or off target. But I also don't want to see anyone engineer their target. That's a good way to say that, too.
Reverse engineer.
Reverse engineer your target. So I hope that in this whole process, we'll continue to let the audit committee, who has a lot of expertise in this area, validate your measures so that we have something good for the public to know that it's a valid measure. So.
No, I think that's a great point. And again, the reverse engineering example that I gave, that is not what my intent here is. I mean, we're all busy. We don't need to go through a charade. Again, the purpose is to align the levels of service and to align the functions with what's needed and what the board's direction is. So that's a great.
Yeah, so now it's Lori's turn to steal my thoughts. So I'll keep it brief. You know, I think that zero-based budgeting works very well in the private sector. I think in the public sector, because we're not profit-driven, it just creates bureaucracy and it becomes counterproductive. As you mentioned, it's an enormous project, so you end up spending all your staff time creating a program to look at justifying your expenses, which in itself creates more expenses and slows down the process. So I'd much rather go with performance metrics and performance-based budgeting than zero-based budgeting in the public sector. So anyway.
Anybody else before I take public comment? Jim?
Yeah. A couple of things. I know, as the board described here, a couple of things, but maybe other goals and objectives for consideration, I would hope, would be, reduce our deficit. Second, I hope the formation of the group you call traffic can help better manage the $1.4 million that's spent on our city street repairs and separate what is spent on snow removal, street sweeping, and other various tasks. I hope another goal would be converting our present-day landfill to a 100% recycling landfill. Also, if possible, if we could establish a utility rate assistant program for the neediest residential citizens within our community that are having a hard time with the rate increases on their water and sewer. I would also like to see improvement or change how funds are distributed within the capital improvement program. I think we can make moderate steps to improve how this is done. Also, the deferred maintenance program, in my opinion, is a complete other disaster, and it needs a drastic overhaul of how we're maintaining that fund and where those funds are going to. Also, we talked about open and transparent government. I would hope, just this agenda item, and this is not all of it, this thick agenda is given out on Thursday prior to the Thursday meeting. And if we want citizens to be involved, I think we have to get this out sooner and faster to them. I think we can do that. I would hope a goal would be to get agenda items out to the public so they can read through this and have input as well. I think expectations of citizens reading through this agenda item in such a short period of time to have their input is limiting the citizens' ability to have a voice in city government if we can't give them the information in a more timely manner. That's my opinion. Also, I would appreciate, and I know you try to do your best, of getting all board members actively involved and informed within any programs, projects, or plans the staff is working on for the community that is related to certain items such as grant funding or any other such items that would benefit the community if all board members could be involved, or at least in your newsletter to us or your monthly update, tell us what's going on in those other fields that we're not privy to. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Can I just ask what you mean on the first item, Supervisor Shirk, on the deficit? I mean, the city has a balanced budget. I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I think what I'm just trying to do is reduce or maintain the deficit we have and not go more into debt. I think that's what I was alluding to.
Do you understand? I understand that, but do you okay, all right. Just for the record, the budget is, there's no deficit financing in city government that I know of. I mean, I think it's against the law to do deficit financing.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go.
More just for clarification, are we voting on those to put in as goals, or we're each just giving him some goals? I think it's fairness. I need to understand process-wise. Is it we're each just going to give him some general goals?
Some general goals, yeah.
Well, I think that collectively as the board, and I'll defer to the HR director, but I think the board needs to vote together on objectives for the coming year.
Right.
I mean, I respect Supervisor Shirk's objectives, and I'll certainly try to meet each one of them with him, but I think collectively, the board needs to also do that.
All right, well, we've got some outlined here, and right?
I'm writing fast and furiously, but I'll have to go back and listen to the tape. So in your motion, if you could outline the goals, because that's required under the city manager's employment contract, that would be helpful.
We'll do that. I'm going to take some public testimony here, too, before we go down there. Go.
And the only other goal that I'd like to add is just that you continue to work forward on code compliance for extended stay motels to ensure that the quality of life standards are met for those who can least afford it. Yeah.
Go.
Can I add, can we have a quarterly report on the effectiveness of the Kaizen events? I'd like to not lose track of whether those are working and if we're going to continue them, and where we're going on that. So if you could add that, I'd appreciate it.
All right. Everybody, I'm going to take some public testimony. Anybody want to come up and, anybody? I don't see any. Okay, so we'll have the board here. I think we've got pretty good discussion where we are. Does somebody want to try? We do have to come up with some goals, and then if we want to do something on salary, we can discuss that as well or not discuss that. But somebody want to try a motion, and then we'll see where it goes. Go ahead.
Do you want this to be all one motion, Bob, or?
Well, let's try the goals first. Well, I think what Melanie said is here's what I think that what I understand from the board here, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the satisfaction with this city manager is excellent, and what he's got some goals, proposed future objectives here. He's also heard some from all of us up here with respect to individual ones. And I think that, a motion would be, to approve the conduct of the city manager to date and ask that you come back with a list of goals that you're going to do for the next year that would include yours plus how you would think you can address the ones that were brought up here today. And then yeah. Difficulty with the code, Jim.
Well, he's going to address every goal that every one of us mentioned, how he's going to obtain those goals?
No, I think
come back?
No, I think what I'd suggest anyway, and this is a board decision, is that he's going to look at what we had here, put those down as goals, what he thinks he can accomplish, and then we'll go from there.
I don't think that works. I mean, we'll go from there? No, I think this agenda item is that we give him the goals today. That's part of it. I mean, if we're just going to let him go back and look at this and say, hey, well, this is what I can do, there is no goal.
I didn't mean it like that. I'm just trying to accommodate what Melanie said is you're going to have to go back and reread all these things. But I'm not trying to cut out anybody's ideas about what they want to do here. Let's just try a motion, see where it goes.
Well, I'm not ready to make a motion, but I do have a comment, which is, you know, I don't think it's our job to supervise the city manager, not micromanage him. And I think that the only person that can come up with goals for the city manager is the city manager because it's his workload. So I think that we have put out a lot of suggestions and our preferences, but I think at the end of the day, I would agree with the mayor's comments, which is my expectation is that, Nick, that you would come back to us with your goals and objectives for the next year based on our discussion, because you may or may not be able to handle within your current workload everything that we put on the table today, nor may you find specific items appropriate because we haven't taken a vote as a board on each one of those goals. We've given you our individual preferences, and the overall board may or may not agree with those. So my preference would be to use similar language to what the mayor suggested, which is to have you come back to us with your goals and objectives for the next year based on the discussion today, so that we don't give you unobtainable tasks to do.
Well, so I'm going to, this one I'm going to split. So I'm going to tell you that I half agree with that one and half agree with this one. So it's our job to set the policies. It is our job to set the policies of this city, and it's his job to carry out those policies. But I also agree we shouldn't overwhelm the goals that it's impossible for you to achieve. So there's comments there that are on both sides, and I think that, in fairness, Mr. Shirk has come up with some ideas, and I think we should honestly discuss them. And then I like the idea of the city manager having a little bit of time to digest these goals. So one, do we accept the goal? But the secondary answer is the city manager could come back and realistically tell us it's impossible for me to do all 10 of these or 12 of these. So I think there's some give and take for both of us. But the first issue should be, is it an appropriate goal? And if so, should he work towards it over this year, or does he tell us that's a 3 to 5 year goal? So maybe we're all right, and we just need to find the right method to agree upon here.
Well, I think we're probably all right, I think, but at the end of the day, I think, you know, we can discuss, certainly we can discuss these issues. Some of them I think that they're more appropriate for a strategic planning conference where you can actually dig into what's going on and have discussion. I mean, as an overall goal concept, I think there are a number here that would, you know, fit you know, like expand, one of the goals he says is expand transparency so residents have increased ability to gain information, have problems solved, and provide input to city priorities. That deals with, I think, a number of, at least a couple of what Supervisor Shirk raised. You know, if we want to talk about the landfill, we can certainly do that, but I'm not certain we have the ability to give a detailed analysis of what we want you to do with the landfill until we've had a chance to, you know, understand what that means, things of that nature. So, you know, it's up to this board, but you know, I'm kind of inclined to say, you know, that your goals are that you've outlined pretty well cover things, and that, you know, the other things that we can, they're laudable issues where I think, you know, we ought to be talking about them anyway. But we can bring them to a strategic conference, and you know, maybe one of the ideas is we're going to one of your goals is to have another strategic planning conference as soon as we can, so that we can talk about these things and get them out, you know, in a forum where we all can understand where everybody else is coming from, rather than have just a discussion up here. But that's, you know, so I guess, you know, have it a little bit broader statement might work, but, you know, that's up to you folks, so.
Can we have Mr. Shirk repeat what his, sorry, Supervisor Shirk, and I'm interested in what goals he'd like to add, and then if there's any of those that could be met if we added a goal of another retreat, and if he feels that would meet his goal, if we added the goal. And I'd like to hear what Mr. Shirk had to offer there.
Well, going by the agenda item, it says objectives. So these are my objectives. If you want a more detailed conversation about this, then we should have another agenda item. I mean, if this present day agenda item, I brought forward my ideas. Do we want to get into the conversation of how to convert the present day landfill to 100% recycling landfill? I don't know if this is the proper time. If you want to have a meeting after this meeting to discuss that, but I don't think it's out of the ordinary if you list something that you think is an objective or a goal for the city manager, could not be put onto here and discussed, and as an objective, whether it's obtainable or not, that's what he's going to come back and tell us. So I don't know where you want me to go. I mean, I brought up things I thought were important. So I don't know where you want me to go from that, other than if you want to break it down and dive into each subject matter. I'm not sure where you're headed either, so.
Well, I guess that's kind of where we have to go then. I mean, so I've got them written down here, reduce deficit. Why don't you explain kind of where you're going on that one?
I think you clarified that, Mayor. So,
okay, all right.
Now, you want to sit down and have a discussion about this, then I'll need backup material. I'll need to have city staff come in with the traffic. I'll have to have landfill come in, waste management contracts. I think it's going to be a long meeting.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think more for me, I just wanted to know whether, did you want the rest of the board to support that goal? Or you're saying it's just your own individual goal? Maybe, if I'm not, do you want us to vote to include your goals in his goals? I thought the agenda item actually says we have to adopt goals for the next year. And so I'm trying to accommodate your request to comply with the agenda item.
These are my goals I specifically would like to have achieved for the city. Whether this board agrees with them, I'm not sure that'll happen, but these are things I think that are important, and how we get there, I'm not sure. So.
Okay, Supervisor Bonkowski, go.
Yeah, I hear Jim and I saying the same thing, which is we each have individual preferences which we would like you to examine, and correct me if I get off track. And then if you can incorporate them this year, fine. If you incorporate them next year, but I'm certainly not willing to vote on individual goals of any of the five of us without all of us talking about it. So again, I go back to, and Jim, correct me again if I'm wrong, what we're both saying is we have certain ideas that we'd like you to examine and see if you can incorporate them into your goals for the next year. But the only way we can do that, since we haven't had individual discussions on specific items, is to have you come back with that list at a future meeting. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
These are what I would like to see accomplished. If you can or you cannot, you need to tell me what you can and cannot do, or what maybe the landfill takes 10 years, but at least something that we look at today, or we're in the discussion about how we get there. And all of these items is just something for discussion of how to improve, especially divert maintenance, capital improvement, and agenda items. Some of these things are easily done. But if you want to, like I said, I agree that that's all I'm looking for.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment? With relation to the motion, and Jim, tell me if this does or doesn't accomplish what you're thinking, and Brad, the attainment of the Board of Supervisors policy objectives that are within reason. If we made a motion to that effect, would that accommodate your thoughts?
No, because what is in reason may not be in reason with you, but may be in reason with somebody else. I think if the motion is you take what we mentioned as a possibility to move forward, okay, but you can't say within reason, because that draws a line, and you could say, well, that's not within reason, so I'm not going to even deal with that one.
Okay, why don't we try this as a motion, and everybody listen up close on this one. Suppose we have a motion that approves the conduct of the city manager, adopts the proposed future objectives that's in the packet that the city manager's put together, and then ask the city manager to take what he's heard today and come back at a subsequent meeting and explain what goals or what his understanding of those things are, and if they can be adopted as a goal, I think is the right word. But so in other words, you'd come back with what you heard here today. I mean, we would, because we have certain goals. We have a contract that says we have to set some goals, and Lori's absolutely right that we have to do that. To me, the goals and objectives he's got set out there are broad enough to incorporate most everything that what we've heard here today. Even though I don't understand some of the nuances of what's being asked, but I think that as a topic, it does. And so, my sense is that if we pass if the board wants to. It adopts the proposed future objectives that are in the packet, and then we're going to have the city manager come back and talk to us about what he thinks he can do with the other things that we discussed here today. Bring it up.
That would satisfy me.
I mean, because I think that you need, out of fairness to him, I mean, I don't know what it means when you say deferred maintenance is a mess. I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means when it says the capital improvement projects are a mess. I don't know what that means either. And so I'm just saying that at some point in time, out of fairness to you and to the public and to us, we need to know what those things, what we're really talking about there other than the topic. And today is probably not the day, to do that. So all I'm saying is, they are meritorious in terms of talking about them. They certainly are. But I'm not certain we're going to get through them to the level of detail is going to allow you, in fairness, to make a decision, or this board actually, to make a decision that these are legitimate objectives that we want you to accomplish in the next year before we evaluate you again, because the evaluation will be coming up. And I would remind everybody that we will be having another strategic conference where these things, in my view, can be really fleshed out in some detail. We'll have all the department heads there and talk about them where we can get nailed down to what exactly we're talking about in terms of the issues that are involved, and then get a little bit better guidance so that we all have a better understanding of what's going on. So that's my sense. Jim, go.
Well, just to clarify, because if saying change or move or change and prove how funds are distributed within the capital improvement program, I don't know how more exact I can get. I believe I made it clear. Whether some individuals can understand that or not, I'm not sure. When I say the deferred maintenance program is, in my opinion, a complete disaster and it needs improvement, I think that's clear. I don't know if I need to go more in depth into that for the city manager to understand that. I think it's just a statement that we need to make some improvements in both of those categories. I don't know if you need more defining sentences or statements to that effect for you to look at this. Is it clear enough here, or as the mayor says, he doesn't understand it? Do you understand it?
Well, and I'm happy to go whatever direction the board wants me to go on this. To use deferred maintenance, that's a great example, because you're going to get in a few agenda items today, the city engineer is going to talk about our asset and our infrastructure management program and how we plan on addressing this in the long term. So, yeah, I mean, I think I understand what you're getting at, Supervisor Shirk, and I would meet individually with you on these items to talk and make sure I completely understand everything. But again, just to stick with deferred maintenance as one example, I think I understand completely what your objective is. I believe we're on the road to meet that objective, and I'd be happy if this is what the board wants, is to combine what I've already submitted to you. Some of these are related to each other, and craft what I think the appropriate, again, these should be high-level tasks. They shouldn't be, individual type tasks. That's just my opinion. But to come back to you and go, this is this is what I heard, this is what I recommend that you hold me to in terms of objectives. And we could either do that at another board meeting, we could do a separate, workshop if you want to have, and we could agendize it and publicize it in accordance with the open meeting law. I could meet individually with each board member and then come back to a future board meeting, which is where I think you want me to go, Mr. Mayor, and say, here's my recommended list to you, and then you either modify it or approve it at that point.
That's what I'm suggesting, and believe me, Jim, here's where I get confused, because I got you when you say I don't like the way we're moving numbers around in the construction, the CIP program, but I don't know what the issue is there we're trying to talk about. I mean, if the issue is we move numbers around, I don't know. All I want to know is what issue we're trying to solve and how we're getting at it, and that's all. I'm just trying to figure out what it is. Same with deferred maintenance. What issue? I mean, I got that there are a lot of different issues with the deferred. I just want to know what it is that we're trying to nail down. So, for your fairness, what the issue really is and how you're going to address it. Because yeah, there are issues in there. I got you, but we need to know. At least I need to know what we're talking about, more than the top level one. So that's all.
Yeah, and I think what the city manager just clarified is that he will meet individually with me, and I can clarify that. Unless you want to do it today, which I don't care, whichever way, I'm willing to do both, or either one.
Okay, well, that solves the problem then. Okay, all right, we'll take a motion then. So we want to try a motion? Want me to do it?
I would move to use your motion.
All right, well, I'd move. Here's a proposed motion, and you guys see what you want to do
I
with it.
can read it back. Would you like me to read it back?
Yeah, read it back. Go ahead.
Okay. Mayor Kroll proposed a motion to approve the conduct of the city manager, adopt the proposed future objectives that are in the packet put together by the city manager, and ask the city manager to take what he's heard today and come back in a subsequent meeting and explain what goals and his understanding of those things, and if they can be adopted as goals.
Second.
All right. Well, for the record then, I'll make that motion that you just read back. There's a second by Supervisor Abel on the motion. Further discussion?
Yes.
Discussion's in order.
And I'll meet with you as soon as we can set up a date and time to discuss everything I listed, and then we can go into more detail and then clarify those things. So I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Further discussion? On the motion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Okay. Democracy at work. Mr. City Manager, let me just tell you, I think you're a credit to the city, you're a credit to the Marine Corps, and you're a credit around. So welcome home.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can I ask one question about this agenda item? It did have and establish a merit increase of, and there was a blank to be in effect July 1st, 2016. It wasn't part of this motion. Is that going to be a separate motion?
If we don't take it up, we're not going to take it up.
Well, then I'll make a motion. Okay, is that all right?
Sure.
For merit increase?
I don't know, are you asking for a merit increase?
It's on the agenda.
I have not, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all right.
Then it's not part of this agenda item because you didn't ask for it? Or are we supposed to offer it?
No, we just, you can, a motion for a merit increase is on the agenda if you want to do it. The city manager, though, said he's not asking for one. I mean, I think that it's on there because the contract says that, we'll talk about his goals and objectives and the increase. He's not asking for one, but if you want to make a motion.
Yes, I will.
I'm not certain where it's going to go, but you can make a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move to establish a merit increase of $6,702.84 for the city manager to take effect July 1st, 2016.
There's a motion. Okay, I don't see a second. All right. Anything further on this issue?
Just going to make a comment?
Comments in order.
So I want to thank the city manager for agreeing not to take a raise. I really appreciate that. So I just want to say thank you. A job well done.
Amen.
And I just want to comment on that same issue. And the city manager is well aware of all of the capital improvements and the things that need to happen within this community. And so I appreciate him. He deserves it, but I appreciate him not taking or wanting to take a raise.
And I would say I agree with Karen and Lori's comments, and thank you for being a team player.
Jim, up.
Yeah, I would say thank you for doing everything that you have done for the city. I think you're entitled to a raise, just as every other city department head, city employee, elected officials have all received pay increases. I believe you're entitled to it. It was in your contract, and that's why I made the motion for it.
Okay. Anything else to come on this issue? We'll be in recess for 5 minutes, till about 11 o'clock. We're going to call the meeting of Board of Supervisors back to order. We're now moved on to item number 20. Ms. Tadman, how are you this morning?
I'm good, thank
You
you.
want to take us through Justice Wilson
Yes.
Construction, please?
This is to approve contract number 1516-137, the Eagle Station Lane Sewer Repair Project to Justin Wilson Construction for a bid amount of $125,385 plus a 10% contingency for a total not to exceed amount of $137,923.50 from the Sewer Line Replacement and Repair Fund.
And it is budgeted, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Mr. Schultz, you want to talk us about what this project is? And we got some questions up here.
Sure. I'll just go a real quick overview, and then I'll be open to questions. I have the project manager here as well. This is a project that we've been needing to do for a while. It's a sewer line that's failed miserably, and we got to get in there and fix it as soon as we can. Includes some manhole repairs as well. I just wanted to make a comment there about the patching that we're doing, the asphalt patching. In a perfect world, we really like to go in and replace the whole street as best we can when we do a project like this, or at least the one half of the street. The reason we're not doing that here is it's twofold. It really does come down to money, but for one thing, if you're not just doing a patch, but if you're replacing the asphalt for the whole distance, it's considerably more money to do that rather than just a narrow patch. And secondly, is it triggers the ADA requirement. If we do a full removal and replacement of the asphalt, the street, and bring it right up to the sidewalk, then we're required by law to fix all the ADA that goes along there. That's not a bad thing, but it's cost prohibitive in many cases, and certainly in this one. So that's why we're recommending the project as is. We are going to do a mill and fill over the area and put in. It'll be a really nice patch there, but we're not fixing the whole road or the ADA that's related to this project. So I'll take your individual questions.
Darren, the other question that I had, and thank you for addressing that, is that the winner of the bid, his patch or his asphalt patch price is half of the highest bidder and a third of the second bidders. Are you concerned about the quality of the asphalt, because that just creates problems down the road?
And we have a spreadsheet that actually shows all of the prices we get from past projects, and that does fit into the prices we've seen. And we also have our specs and testing to ensure that the patching is done according to our requirements.
What was the engineer's estimate for this project?
Oh, sorry. Darren Henderson from Public Works. The engineer's estimate was $140,000.
Thank you.
Other questions? Public comment? Motions?
Can
Go.
I just make a general comment, because I had someone from the public ask me a question on contingencies. And so just kind of for the record, that the bid amount is what the contractor is bidding based on the knowledge that we put out on the RFP of the project. The contingency is for the unknown item that once they start digging or once they start doing something, an issue could come up that wasn't addressed in the original bid. And so just for the general public, that's why we always add 10% for contingency. It's for the unknown item.
That is correct. It's for unforeseen conditions that we come past during construction. That contingency is the city's money. That's not the contractor's money until we issue a change order for a portion and or some of it.
Thanks. I just wanted to clarify that because I had a question from a constituent. Thank you.
Good clarification. Jim's up, then you.
First off, two quick things. One, I'd like to thank you for putting in how much is in the account that we're taking the money from. It's very appreciative. And the second thing, with the GPS we have and everything, could we get pictures of where I got two people email me saying, where is this? Could we, in the agenda item, maybe in the future, consider just a photo or a map of where this is taking place, if possible?
Yes, we've been in the process of with our GIS getting a little bit better about that, and so we're working towards the idea of each one of the capital projects coming forward having a map attached, and I assure you we're working towards that, and we'll have it soon.
No problem. So just going back to Lori's comments about the contingency, one of the issues with not having a contingency in here is that if you did have an issue come up that had to be addressed, it's a timing issue. You can't stop the project for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks while you go out and get authorization for more funding to take care of that issue. Then we'd have projects torn up and sitting there forever. So although it's never our intent to spend contingency money, it's to create the most efficient, timely completion of the project, correct?
That's correct. And not only, I mean, yeah, you can't stop a project, but then you potentially open the door for a claim, and a delay claim for the contractor if all of his equipment's sitting out there and he can't do the work. So that's the exact reason why we do it.
All right, other questions or concerns from the board? Public? I don't see any. Anybody want to make a motion? Okay. Go.
I move to determine that Justin Wilson Construction is the lowest responsive bidder pursuant to NRS Chapter 338, and to award contract number 1516-137, Eagle Station Lane Sewer Repair Project, to Justin Wilson Construction for a bid amount of $125,385, plus a contingency amount of $12,538.50, for a total not to exceed amount of $137,923.50 to be funded from the Sewer Line Replacement and Repair Fund as provided in fiscal year 15-16.
Motion and a couple seconds on the motion. Discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Okay, thanks. Let's take up item 20B. This is the potential contract with Resource Concepts, Inc. And Ms. Tadman, would you clarify for the record if this is $60,000 a year or $60,000 for 2 years, please?
It's each year.
Thank you. All right.
All right, this is to approve contract 1516-165, Carson City Water Resources Support to Resource Concepts for an annual amount not to exceed $60,000 per year for 2 years, to be funded from the Water Account Professional Services Fund.
Budgeted, correct?
Correct.
All right. Board comments? Supervisor Shirk, go.
Can you give a brief overview of what this will do for the city for $120,000 for the next 2 years?
I will. Darren Schultz for the record again. RCI performs this work as an extension of staff for Carson City for our water division, and what it is 30,000 foot level. It's monitoring the water rights that Carson City owns, and make sure that we're doing everything we need to do with the state in terms of using those water rights, appropriating those water rights. All the paperwork that goes around those water rights is being managed. They've been doing this for the city for many years. It's an inordinate amount of paperwork back and forth with the state, just tracking. We have over 18,000 acre feet reserved for the city. So RCR performs this for us, and they do a great job of it. And we looked a couple of years ago, as is this something we should be considering bringing in-house? And I couldn't make it pencil out, so we're continuing to use RCI.
In having some experience with water rights, I can tell you that you cannot have somebody with enough experience handling this for you. Water rights in Nevada are use it or lose it. If you don't file the paperwork correctly, and you are not putting the water to beneficial use, the water engineer has the right to take your water away, and we cannot afford that. Thank you, Mr. Scott, and you guys are doing a great job, and this is something that is very, very critical, and there are very few people out there in the public that have the knowledge and expertise to be able to do this.
Any further comments, questions from the board before I take public comment? Public comment, anybody? All right, motion's in order.
I'll make a motion.
Go.
I move to approve contract number 1516-165, Carson City Water Resources Support to Resource Concepts, Inc., for an annual amount not to exceed $60,000 per year for 2 years, to be funded from the Water Account Professional Services Fund as provided in fiscal years 2016-17 and 2017-2018.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion?
Discussion.
Discussion's in order.
So I really prefer that these motions indicate the contract totals. So would you like to clarify an annual amount not to exceed $60,000 and a contract total of $120,000? So that it's clear on the record that the total contract's $120,000.
I'll make that amendment to my motion.
Thank you.
Jim, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody clear what the motion is? It's for $120,000. It's also based upon the hourly rates, not to exceed. Okay, all right. Further, there's been an amendment to the motion, and the second agrees to the amendment on the motion as amended. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thanks. Okay, all right. All right. Good to see you, Mr. Scott. All right. Let's take up NASPO handheld receivers. What are we doing here?
All right. This is to approve the purchase.
This is 20C, by the way. 20.
Yes, item 20C. This is to approve the purchase of Motorola equipment through joinder contract number 06913 through NASPO for a not to exceed amount of $61,256.22. This will purchase 23 public safety handheld radios to be funded from the various receiving departments' operating budgets and the court's restricted funds. And this item is budgeted.
Who's here to explain how come we're only handing out certain ones to certain peeps? And go ahead.
James Jacklett, Public Works Operations Manager for Control Systems. I'm responsible for the communications team that handles the radio system for all of the departments in the city. So with this, we have a Motorola radio system. We have approximately 800 radios, which are comprised of the handheld and the vehicle mobile radios that are used in the performance of our daily duties and more importantly, during any sort of bad event, any crisis, emergencies. So what we do, we have a regular meeting with our radio users, and our role is to guide and make sure that we support them in the acquisition or requisition of these radios in support of their role. So we make sure that they're compatible, that they're going to meet our strategic plans, that they're going to be, that they're not going to be something that's wasted, to make sure they align with everything that we're doing. So in that case, at that point, it's up to those departments to fund those radios. In this case, both juvenile and the court system had the money budgeted and wants these radios for their first responders. And as you can see on there, a couple of the things that it does mention, they will improve their ability to communicate by providing enhanced coverage, improved audio quality, greater battery life, increased interoperable channel capacity, and they will be fully compatible with our existing system and our system as we're moving forward. The thing to realize with these guys is that radio is more important than the gun that they carry in many cases. That's their lifeline. These radios put out an additional watt over what they use right now. Specifically for alternative sentencing, they're commonly operating outside of our county storyline in areas where coverage is not so optimal. So that additional watt, that ability to get out and call for help, could be the difference between life or death for them. So it is a department issue for them. With that said, 800 radios, we're going to be bringing a lot more of this forward. We're working on our strategic plan for that system. There will be significant money that's needed to invest in that to sustain operations and increase our effectiveness and our efficiencies with that system going forward.
Jim.
Good afternoon. You mentioned that, if I heard you right, the Justice Court and the Juvenile Court are purchasing it. Are other departments purchasing it as well?
Okay, sure. So on here I have Justice Court 4, District Court 3, Juvenile Court 1, Department of Alternative Sentencing 6, and Juvenile Probation 9.
So they're all purchasing, all departments are purchasing it. Maybe I misunderstood what you said.
Yes, that is correct. The funds on here, there are five accounts that are associated with this purchase to reflect those.
I apologize. On page 247, we're purchasing 23 of the radios, but only, in some cases, 16 of the microphones. Is there a reason we're not purchasing everything the same for all radios?
Yes, good question. Thank you. The reason that you see that for those accessories, so when you look at these line items, you see the base radio, 23. You see the options, which are also 23. When you get down to those accessories, those are either the lapel mics that they carry on their uniform, or a Bluetooth lapel mic, or possibly the in-ear piece. So that's department preference for what they use in order to communicate with those devices.
Also on the same page, it says responsible for shipping costs. Is that built into the contract, or is that additional cost?
The shipping cost is included.
And also, is there a warranty with this?
Sure, the Motorola standard warranties do apply. I apologize, I don't have the detail on that. However, I can tell you with our agreement with Sierra Electronics in Reno, our service agreement, working with them as the exclusive Motorola solutions provider for our area. We have a great reputation. The equipment's great. Everything goes good. We always act on those radios as well. I have a Motorola trained technician who's in-house who's able to perform the smaller repairs. That's part of our the improvements that we've done with our communication system is making sure we can support these. We also have these similar radios in production right now, and they're hardened units. They're built for the job.
And so, do you think in the future you'll be coming back, you said there's 800 radios? Did I hear that correct?
Yes, that's correct. There are 800. There are also repeater sites. There are in-building systems. There are remote receive or voter sites. This system is complex. We're in the process of determining exactly what we're going to do with our system, how we're going to maintain interoperability with our mutual aid partners, how that's going to interface the future state, Nevada State radio system network, and all of those things, our coverage, our capabilities today, what we want in the future. There's a lot happening with this. It's a very important piece of technology for what we do here, and at this time, I'm not really prepared to speak on where we're doing. That's a moving target. We're figuring that all out. But we will be back, and it's all going to be a good thing. It's going to be a huge benefit to this community.
James, what's going to happen to the 23 radios that are being replaced? Are they going to be kept in service, or are they going to be surplused? Or?
Yes, so the 23 radios that are in place, it will be up to the specific departments whether they want to retain those radios. They are supported by us in our operation currently, or they may turn them back into the communications division. The way that the Fleet Radio Fund is paid for is through an REU, radio equivalency unit. So if they choose to keep those radios for secondary use or for other personnel in their department, they will pay the service charge for that. If they turn them back into the division, then we will have them available for other departments or turn-in. Turn-in deals are always a great deal on this. That's one thing that's not mentioned on here, but we are actually turning in some legacy equipment, not these specific ones we're pulling out of service, at a benefit of $400 a radio. So that's something we always do too, is try to get the most bang for our buck and effectively upcycling or recycling these radios by turning them back in when they no longer meet our requirements.
And by turned back in, you mean as a trade-in? They go back to Motorola?
That's correct. We owe them radios, but in this case, what we're able to do, the specific lines, these are APX radios that we're buying now. They've been out for several years. The radios we're replacing are XTS. They've been out since about 2000, 2002, and we had a line before that called HT, and the HT radios, the majority of them no longer support the FCC narrowbanding requirement. That's what it made us move from the HTs into the newer model, and now
speak English.
Yeah, I know. So it is. Technology's moving, regulations, requirements. More importantly for us at this point, we're trying to be proactive and bring those future capabilities when they're needed. As you know, everything's advancing for first responders, for everybody. Communication with FirstNet, with the government's FirstNet initiative. A lot of different things are going to happen with first responders, their connectivity, their data needs, and most importantly, their ability to call for help and talk when they need it.
Other comments or questions from the board? Public comments? Mr. Jacklet, very well done. Okay. Motion's in order. Who wants to make it? Supervisor Abel, go. No.
I move to approve the purchase of Motorola equipment through joiner contract 06913 through NASCO, National Association, NASPO, National Association of State Procurement Officials, for a not-to-exceed amount of $61,256.22 to be funded from the receiving department's operating budgets and the court's restricted funds.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you. All right, let's take up the Dell one, where you kind of want to have a checkbook for $200,000. Tell us why. All right, Laura, Ms. Tadman, tell us what's going on here.
This is to approve the city contract number 1516-155. It's the Dell Master Lease Agreement number 571133-16559. This is for a not-to-exceed annual amount of $200,000, which will be funded from various departmental accounts as approved in the city's budget process. This agreement is scheduled to start July 1, 2016 through June 30th, 2021. And Eric is here to give specifics as to this agreement.
Walk us through why you need this kind of flexibility, and because you know where this board's going to come. Well, you know, it's not usual that we just say, hey, you know, here, go do it. But I think you've got a pretty good story to tell, so go ahead and talk to us.
So Eric Von Schimmelman, Chief Information Officer. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of the board. So what this contract is a master lease agreement overall that we can use through Dell Financial Services. We're not currently purchasing anything with this contract. It's basically the precursor to us purchasing using their lease agreements. This is what we need to do to for Dell to allow us to purchase under their financial services. So what I'm trying to do is get this in place so that we can go forward. I have a couple of projects coming up. I would like to try spread out the payments of these projects over 3 or 5 years, whatever we can figure out with Dell. The current project I'm looking at is actually for a data protection and backup solution. They want to give us a 3-year agreement and with 0% financing. So it's a benefit to the city, and it's basically free money. That's where this starts.
If we approve this, though, you make those decisions to how to spend that $200,000. Is that right? Or are you coming back to the board on an individual topic for what you want to acquire?
So what I would do is I'd bring back to the board whatever is required through the purchasing guidelines. If it's basically right now, if it's under $50,000, I do not have to bring it back to the board. So that's the way the guidelines read. If you'd like me to bring things back individually, I could. I
just want to clarify that where those decisions being made. All right, got it. All right, questions in order.
So that I can clarify and just make sure that we're all aware of what we're doing here. This is a financing methodology, not an authorization for you to spend.
That is correct.
So the standard rules will apply on what comes to the board for approval and what doesn't. This is a vehicle, though, for you to exercise an option for financing.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Eric, because I think it sounds like all of us were concerned about the same thing, that we're just writing a blank check, which is not the case. I also wanted to thank Adriana and our staff, because I had asked for several changes to be made to this financing agreement, and there was some concern that with a company as big as Dell that they would just laugh at us. But in fact, they made our changes, and Adriana was successful in getting all those changes implemented, which have some legal protections for the city in there. So I wanted to thank you for following up and getting those changes approved through Dell.
And I don't want to take credit. Iris Yao in our office, she worked diligently, line by line, and went over this Dell agreement and fought with the Dell guys, and with Eric.
But it included a lot of protections for us. This template that they use, they typically put out because most people will just accept it. But in fact, we were able to get a lot of legal protections into this contract that they agreed to. So, thank you.
Next, they're going to take on Microsoft, so get them ready.
Bring it on, Bill.
Bring it on, Bill. All right. Other questions, comments from the board? Public comments? Don't see any. Who wants to make a motion? All right.
I move to approve City Contract 1516-155, Dell Master Lease Agreement 571133-16559, for a not-to-exceed annual amount of $200,000 to be funded from various individual departmental accounts as approved in the city's annual budget process. This agreement will start July 1, 2016 through June 30th, 2021.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. Let's take up the J&A Consulting Group matter, $199,000, 5 years. Tell us what's going on here.
This is to approve contract 1516-160 for financial advisory services to J&A Consulting Group for a not-to-exceed annual amount of $199,000 for a total of 5 years.
Nancy Paulson, Chief Financial Officer for Carson City. This contract is for financial advisory services provided by J&A, which are mostly related to the city's debt. Some of the services they provide include preparing the city's annual report that is required by the Securities Exchange Commission, and they also prepare the city's annual arbitrage calculation. But by far, most of the services they provide relate to the issuance of debt. They coordinate and manage the debt issuance process from start to finish. The fees related to these services vary based on the type and the size of the debt being issued, and are included as part of the debt issuance costs and deducted from the debt proceeds. These fees are presented and approved by the board in conjunction with the approval of the ordinance providing for the issuance of the debt. We're asking to enter into a 5-year contract with J&A because the process for the issuance of debt can take up to 6 months or more, and J&A is involved in the process from the very beginning. And this way, we wouldn't have to come back to the board in the middle of the financing process to ask for an amendment to the contract if it were to cross over the fiscal year.
So, Nancy, are the funds always collected through the debt issuance instrument?
Yes, when it's related to
Debt.
the debt,
When it's
yes.
related to debt, okay.
Yeah.
And we're not, and debt has a couple different connotations. At least one is new debt and also debt to retire.
And the refunding, yes.
Refunding debt, okay. All right. Is this, we usually do this with J&A?
The last time we did the contract, I believe, was 3 years ago, and we did it for an amount not to exceed $199,000. And for that contract, we had to come back each year and amend it.
Okay, all right. Supervisor Pankowski.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the annual amount in this contract is not tied to specific issuances. It's a placeholder to cover any issuances that may come up during the period.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions from the board? Supervisor Sharp, Jim.
Nancy, I emailed you the questions I had on items 9, 10, 11, and 13. If you have those answers before you, maybe you could just elaborate on that or just bring it up briefly. I appreciate it.
To look at what.
It was managing and issuing debt securities, subtitles 9, 10, 11, 13.
Number 9. So number 9 says assist the city with presentations made to the Debt Management Commission to secure its approval for issuance of securities. And I think you asked if board approval is required before these presentations are made, and yes, board approval is required, and actually we're doing that in an agenda item later on today.
The final one was, or one of the ones I gave you. Other services, subtitle number 1, can you define what all meetings of the city means?
So that could include Debt Management Commission meetings, RTC meetings, and the Board of Supervisors.
But they're, to attend, are they required, or do you request them to attend?
We request them to attend, and John Peterson is actually here today from JNA.
So you will contact them when you think it's necessary they appear at these meetings that you just listed, correct?
Yes.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Public comment, anybody?
I'll make this motion.
Motions in order, Supervisor Bagwell.
Okay. I move to approve contract number 1516-160, Financial Advisory Services to J&A Consulting, LLC, for a not-to-exceed annual amount of $199,000 for a total contract not to exceed of $995,000, effective July 1, 2016 through June 30th, 2021.
There's a motion and a second. On the motion, discussion. Hearing and seeing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried, unanimous. Thank you. J&A does a nice job. All right. Let's take up item 21A. This is a potential resolution for the transfer of Carson City share of the 2016 private activity bond cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority. We do this from time to time. Janice, you're going to take through. You got Gary here and Bill.
Yeah, I'll introduce the item and I'll turn it over to them. So this item is for possible action to adopt a resolution providing for the transfer of Carson City's share of the 2016 private activity bond cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority to finance costs of single-family residential housing. So NRS allows Carson City to allocate our share of the state set-aside funds to fund industrial development and affordable housing projects. We have an allocation this year of $2,836,488.81. Nevada Rural Housing Authority would like to use that money for their Home at Last tax-exempt bond program. And
There's no liability when we transfer bond cap
No.
to the city?
No.
None.
Would you like to?
So the question, Janice, is this, and we're going to hear from Gary and Bill in a minute here, but we do this in the past. I mean, the idea is that we've got unused bond capacity out there that carries with it a lower interest rate. And so what we're trying to do is use that where it can go the best. It can be used. So the question to you then is, does the city need to use that bond cap, or is it able to be transferred? Are we losing anything there?
We don't need to use it. If we don't, then it's just reverts back to the state.
Right.
So the last time that Nevada Rural Housing Authority asked for this was in 2011.
Yeah. Mr. Longacre, welcome home.
Thank you very much. I promised the mayor I would be brief today, and I can be even briefer because I think you've just given a pretty good overview. We started the program in 2006, and it's been a wonderful partnership with the cities and counties where if they're not using their bond cap, transfer to us, we pool it, and that way we're able to then develop single-family programs to help families buy homes. What we used it for the first few years is for tax-exempt programs. What we're using it for now is called the Mortgage Credit Certificate Program, where the family gets a tax break. And we've been a victim of our own success because the programs continue to grow. We haven't asked for any in, I guess it's about 5 years or so. But this year, our program has picked up a lot, so we're asking for the city to help us transfer that to us so we can continue the program this year and not stop. And Bill and I have been traveling across the state, going to Elko, Ely, Tonopah, places like that. And so far, we've had great cooperation. In the letter that I sent you, that I think I copied the city manager on, there's been about 14 million or 16 million or something like that transferred. And the economic activity from our single-family programs has been somewhere around $70 million and about 450 loans, I think it was. So it's been a great partnership here, but it's been a great partnership across the state. So are there any questions at all?
Go.
So just in general, so do residents of Carson City qualify for the program?
Yes.
So I think it's, even though we're transferring it, our residents here still have an opportunity to partake of the benefit.
Yeah, I think the letter, and I don't remember the exact figure, and it's probably grown since then, but I think in the letter we sent, since we started these programs, 400 and, what was it, Bill, 459? 460. Oh, now 460? Okay, 460 families have participated, and we've done 460 loans in Carson. We've done over 4,500 loans across the state. Yeah, across the state in the rural areas.
Questions of Gary or Bill or Janice? Public comment? I don't see. We want to thank you for what you're doing in Carson City as well. We'll talk to you in a minute about that. Motion's in order. Go.
I move to adopt Resolution 2016-R8, a resolution providing for the transfer of Carson City's share of the 2016 private activity bond cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority to finance the costs of single-family residential housing.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Carried, unanimous. And I think on behalf of all of us, thank you for what Nevada Rural Housing is doing. I know you got several different projects going here in Carson City. Good deal. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
And hopefully we will see everybody at Janelle next
On the 8th.
Wednesday. All right. All right. Thank you.
Have a disclosure on the next one.
Okay. All right. Let's take up 21B. Janice, this is kind
Okay.
of dotting the i's and crossing the t's. Is that
Yep,
it?
this
Tell us
is
what's going on here.
to adopt a resolution authorizing expenditures of funds to nonprofit organizations for fiscal year 2016-17. And this is the CSSG program allocations and also the Boys and Girls Club allocation, which is from the Quality of Life Fund.
Go.
Per NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose a conflict of interest and abstain from participating when I have a disqualifying conflict. I serve on the board of directors for FISH, a nonprofit organization. FISH is being granted funding. Therefore, because this is a disqualifying conflict of interest, I will abstain from voting on this matter.
I think I have the same disclosure. We'll see. Go. Disclose.
Yeah, I have a similar disclosure. I have a business partner who sits on the board for the Boys and Girls Club. However, Adriana, I believe I can vote on this.
You're not on the board.
I am not on the board. I have a business partner that is on the board.
Okay, the disclosure is sufficient then.
Okay, thank you.
The circle's on here.
Yes, Capital City Circle.
I have to make the same disclosure that Supervisor Bagwell, and I think I did before, and I will abstain from voting. Okay. We have any other disclosures? Jim? Go. Motion's in order.
I'll make a motion.
Jim, Supervisor, go.
I move to adopt resolution number 2016-R9, a resolution authorizing expenditures of funds to the nonprofit organizations for 2016 through 2017.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And 2 abstentions. Okay. All right. Passes. Not unanimous. I got it this time.
Yes, it's a majority.
Got it. All right. All right. Report of each treasury. Anybody want to have Nancy go through it? Public comments? Motion's in order.
I move to accept the report on the condition of each fund in the Treasury and the statements of receipts and expenditures through May 20th, 2016 per NRS 251.030 and NRS 354.290.
There's a motion and a second on the motion. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried, unanimous. We'll go to 21D and we'll open the public hearing. This is a public hearing on the intent of Carson City, Nevada to issue one or more installment purchase agreements in a collective maximum principal amount up to $5,300,000 to enable the board to pay all or a portion of the cost of acquiring, improving, and equipping a building project as defined in NRS 244A.019 in the city. Public hearing is now open. We'll take Nancy, take us through what's going on here, then we'll take public testimony and board testimony, board comments as well.
Nancy Paulson, Chief Financial Officer. I think for this item, we just have to open it up for public comment and then close the public hearing, and then I'll go over.
Right. But tell us what we're doing so that people have an understanding what's going on here.
Okay.
I mean, I'd like to open it up and close it, but, you know, sometimes it's important to kind of understand what we're opening and closing, but that's okay, you know. I got it. I got it. That's okay. All right, go.
All right. In October 2015, the board approved contract with Amoresco to perform a financial grade energy audit for the Carson City Performance Contract Project. Amoresco has completed the audit, and the next step is to initiate the process for financing the project. The approval of this resolution will allow the city to present the installment purchase agreement proposal to the Debt Management Commission for their approval as required by NRS. Also, upon adoption of the resolution, a certified copy must be forwarded to the Department of Taxation for their approval. Finally, this resolution will allow city staff to begin the application process for requesting federally subsidized qualified energy conservation bonds funding allocations from the state. And I have John Peterson here with me from J&A, and I also have bond counsel Ryan Henry with Sherman and Howard.
So the issue here is that if we do this installment purchase technique, this is a guaranteed, this is really essentially $0 out of city pocket at the end of the day. Is that right or wrong?
That's correct. We're required that the energy savings cover the debt service.
And that's, the contract will require that, does require that if we engage with Amoresco on this, that they get paid through the energy savings, and if the energy savings don't come through, that the city's not on the hook for that. Is that right or wrong?
There are guaranteed energy savings and, yeah. Amoresco guarantees the
I just want to make
energies.
sure that what the liability of the city is, and correct me if I'm wrong, the liability of the city on a transaction, I understand that that we're issuing installment debt, I got that. But the fundamental liability of the city is zero. Is that
That's
right or wrong?
correct.
Okay. All right. All right. Anybody else? Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, excuse me, we've got a brief ready. We can go through.
I think it'd be helpful to do that.
We could go through the program that we have to date and kind of give you the way ahead here.
I think it'd be helpful to do that. Go ahead.
Sounds good? Okay.
For the record, Ryan Henry, I'm part of bond counsel from Sherman and Howard. Under NRS 350-087, before adopting an authorization resolution for an installment purchase of contract, the city is required to hold a public hearing on this item, which we noticed at least 10 days before today, and then the city's able to move forward on the next item. And so I'm just a little concerned. I'd defer to Adriana, but until we actually open the public hearing, take public comment, close the public hearing, I think then it would really be appropriate to take on the next item, which entails the resolution and the presentation from Amoresco and financial advisor.
Mayor, and I understand what you're doing, is you're just trying to give an overview so the public is informed before they comment.
Otherwise, we got a public hearing and nobody knows what they're talking about.
I
mean, that's all.
understand.
I mean, I don't mean to argue with council either. I mean, he's the brains, but you know, I mean.
And I think that's reasonable, but there's also another public comment portion after the presentation.
All right, well, let me see where it goes then. Let's see, how many members of the public want to testify on this issue? Anybody in a public hearing? Anybody? Everybody understand kind of what's happening here? I don't see any head shaking, yes, no, whatever. All right, then. Unless there's further questions of the board, my intention to close this hearing, we'll take it up at the next matter. Anybody? All right. Seeing no public testimony, hearing where we are, then we'll close the hearing on this matter, and we'll go on to move 21E, which is the actual adoption of the resolution. And we will adopt by reference everything that was said in the public hearing that we just held and closed. Okay. Ready? Now you can go through go through the.
Steve Frost and Tim Farkas are here with Amoresco to provide a presentation.
I think it's important to hear what's happening here.
For the record, I'm Steve Frost with Amoresco. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, supervisors. I am here to explain exactly what's going on to help you understand why we're seeking this financing. And as Nancy introduced earlier, this is a culmination of a collaborative work effort with Tom Grundy and all of his team members on staff. We've had a couple updates with the board along the way. And what we're presenting here today is basically a situation where we're looking for the ability to move forward to get financing. And because of those qualified energy conservation bonds that Nancy was talking about, we have the ability to get a larger project done if we get better interest rate. And similar to the allocation we were talking about earlier where Carson City ceded an allocation to another entity, we're basically asking other entities to cede their allocations to Carson City in this particular situation. And if we're successful, we'll get the larger of the projects. And if we're only partially successful, there's a medium-based scenario, and then there's a lower-based scenario that just assumes regular lease purchase financing rates that you would get without the qualified energy conservation bond. That's why we have 3 options. And so what we're doing now is we're just getting the ability to move forward with this to pursue the financing. We talked about the options. We're asking for the resolution to include the maximum amount. That way we don't have to come back to you if we're successful and get all the qualified energy conservation bonds. But please realize if we're not successful, it'll be one of the smaller options that we come back with ultimately for you to vote on as a board.
Steve, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Certainly.
I just want to clarify for the record, we have 2 different interest rates that we're going to be discussing here. One is on the bond issuance, right? And the other is on the installment purchase agreement?
Well, let me clarify. Thank you for the question. Let me clarify. Is basically what we're talking about is an effective interest rate, right? So if we get all qualified energy conservation bonds, the effective interest rate or the actual interest rate will probably be around 1% is what the indicative rate is right now. But it's just like when you're closing on a house loan, you don't know until you close it what the actual rate is, right? So if we're halfway successful, the effective net interest rate between normal financing and the QECB, you meld those 2 financings together, you'll get somewhere around 2%. If we're not successful with either of those and we go for standard lease purchase amount, it will be around 3.5%. So do you understand now why there's varying interest rates?
We have in our packet a pro forma debt service schedule that shows a 4 3/4% interest rate.
John Peterson with J&A Consulting Group, just for the record. I'll address that one since that's from my office. When Steve's talking about these qualified energy bonds, they are a federal subsidy program, and so effectively what the city does, we did this for the water program about 6 years ago, is we issue federally taxable bonds at a higher rate, but then we receive a subsidy back from the federal government for a portion of our interest cost. The actual rate we estimate is about 4.75%, but again, with all of the federal subsidy that comes in, that drags the interest rate back down. So that's why there's 2 different rates here.
Thank you. I just want to get that on the record.
Thank you for asking about that clarification. And then just keep in mind, we will be back in front of the board for approval of the contract, the final contract in July, and then financing is scheduled for later in August. And we're hoping to have notice to proceed somewhere around the September timeframe and then complete construction by the following late spring. That's what we're shooting for. Next slide, please. Okay, and that's kind of the schedule that I put up right there. So basically, May 15th, 2017, we'd be all done if everything goes according to plan, and we're hopeful at this point that we're right on schedule with that. Any questions on the schedule and what we're doing at this point? No.
My only question is, what is the projected savings to the city?
Okay, so these particular projects are designed to be revenue neutral, and that's another important point that we want to make sure you understand is that, and like the mayor was talking about in the introduction, is the obligation for the debt service is paid for out of savings that we as Amoresco are guaranteeing. So, and the way you try to optimize these projects is to get as much of that deferred maintenance that you have done as part of this project. And so we've designed this to be able to create it so it's pretty much revenue neutral on an annual basis, but if you're getting $5.3 million at a revenue neutral situation, that's enabling you to address a lot of nagging problems that you have that if you don't do this work, you will be addressing those in an emergency basis and an unplanned timing going forward over the next, say, 5-6 years, right? Something like that. A lot of the equipment that will fail is expensive and it's critical to your operations, and we're trying to get ahead of that. So those are the three scenarios that we're talking about. That 3.5% interest rate is the base scenario, and that's right around $3.7 million. Then we get a little bit more work done if we can get that effective 2.0% interest rate. And then finally, the 5.3 and change is basically if we get all the QECBs that we're searching for. And so the next question you might be asking is well, what do we get? What's the difference between those three scenarios? And I think the next slide, Darren, if you would please. Can anybody, do you have hard copies of that? That's hard to read for me from here. So basically what the point of that one is to say is that we are addressing in the base scenario lighting at interior and exterior lighting at all 25 of your facilities that are in this scope. And then we're also addressing some situations with your building controls where you have buildings that are not even hooked up to your control systems. You have no way to communicate with them, or you have to dial up and use outmoded control systems that are no longer under, you can't even get parts for them. That's how bad and this is not just at Carson City. We see this everywhere, right? And so what we're doing is we're bringing your control systems up to a point where you can reliably communicate with each of them, that you can buy spare parts, the people that are working on it can provide you the service when you need it, and you're not going to end up with emergency outages and things like that. And so then one of the other situations that we were wanting to make sure that we addressed were when you start to get into the next situation, when we get a little more money, is City Hall has had, let's just say, a nagging HVAC problem, probably since when it was a bank built 30 years ago. And so we're, in the base scenario, we're handling the heating problems. We're not handling the cooling problems because they're more expensive. But when we go from the 3.5 to the $4.3 million scenario, we handle the HVAC problems. And when I say that, it's complete new system on the roof. It's all new piping to hot water coils. We have individual zones in each one of the rooms. One of the problems with the comfort in that building is over time, new walls have gone up, but we haven't been able to put thermostats in the right rooms or the right diffusers in the right rooms. We're going to take care of that as part of the project. And so that's a heavy capital item that's handled, again, out of savings if we get the interest rate we're looking for. And then we're also handling, as part of the base scenario, new boilers at the aquatic center. Those are very aged boilers. You're running up against redundancy issues with that. If you lose one, it's difficult to keep the water where it needs to be. So we're putting in more high efficiency units so that you have additional redundancy, not like one unit won't take out all your capacity. So we think that's a good way to go. And then finally, if we move to that next level of opportunity with the best finance rate, the biggest thing we'll be able to handle at that point is go back into your courthouse, and there's a number of boilers at the courthouse that will be replaced as part of that project. And this matrix is intended to say which buildings are getting what kinds of work done at each one of those, and just trying to get it all on one place for your reference going forward. And again, we'll be back with you for the vote on this in July.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'm going to have Tom Grundy, who's our project manager in the city engineering department, talk about the savings as a percentage of, to get at Supervisor Rabout's question, savings as a percentage of what we use in terms of energy.
Sorry. Tom Grundy with Carson City Public Works. Yeah, like Mr. Frost said, the project is cost neutral, but there is significant energy savings. If we are able to get the financing to get the 2% interest rate, which includes the lighting upgrades, and then the HVAC work at City Hall and the boiler at Public Safety Complex, we'll save about $200,000 a year in energy costs, which will then go to pay for the debt service. So, Steve, do you have any of how many kilowatt hours roughly we'll save with these, or?
Yeah, hold on a second.
or even a percentage, if we can express it in a percentage term.
So we're going to be, we're going to be saving, you have a total annual expenditure of about 1.1 million on natural gas and electricity, right? So we're coming up with a total savings of just under $200,000. That's about 2 million kilowatt hours per year annually, and about 60,000 therms of natural gas being saved annually. As far as a percentage, I don't have that exact percentage in front of me, but typically it's in the 20%, in it based on which buildings they are, they're going to be different percentages, but overall, I'd say in the 20% range.
And that savings accrues to the city upon the completion of the contract.
Yeah, and that is true. And then the other thing I would point out is that the numbers we're guaranteeing as savings are deliberately conservative, and if there's any additional savings, which there almost always is, those go to you. They don't go to us. The benefit will accrue to you if there's excess savings.
Darren, are we going to have the ability, this project is kind of jumping the gun on our GIS database, but are we going to have the ability to incorporate these improvements into the database?
This would be step one of that overall citywide database for assets. So this is getting us out ahead of it, but yes, it would immediately go in there that this asset has been looked at, it's been upgraded to this, has a shelf life of this long, and away we go.
And so all of the items that potentially we will be financing within this, the time period for the financing matches that the asset's useful life has to be contained within that. I think it's correct? So it can't be a 7-year useful life and it's a 15-year contract.
Right. So what's required by state law is that the aggregate life of all the measures needs to exceed the financing amount, and that's what we're looking at now. Things like boilers and those large items that, I mean, you've got 25 and 30-year-old boilers right now, right? So we put these in if they're maintained properly, which there's no reason to expect that they aren't, that they would last that time frame.
Other questions or concerns from the board? Public questions or concerns? Seeing none, motion's in order on a resolution.
Is this 2016 R10? Sure. Well, why don't you make it? Yeah. Brad will make it.
I'll go ahead and make it because I have an addition to it. I move to adopt Resolution 2016 R10, a resolution authorizing one or more installment purchase agreements for the purpose of financing the cost of a building project, directing the city's chief financial officer to forward materials to the Department of Taxation of the state of Nevada, authorizing the city's chief financial officer to execute such installment purchase agreement or agreements, and providing the effective date thereof, and providing for annual reports to the board showing the actual utility savings on an annual basis versus the principal and interest paid in a given year.
Second.
Motion and a second on the motion. Discussion?
Discussion.
Discussion's in order.
So just for clarifying points, in the annual reports, some of these items will be stipulated savings. So is that in the report then you're just going to put, I don't know if you know what that means, but like for lighting is a perfect example. If you change a light bulb to a certain type, you automatically count that savings. There won't be an actual measure that happens every single year in a report. There will be stipulated, versus some of them require a true measure each year to determine. So are you meaning just the ones that are measurable?
So if I understand what you're saying, an incandescent bulb may have a 40-hour lifespan, but an LED may have a 500-hour lifespan, so you're using that difference to calculate the savings.
It's automatic, it's stipulated.
So, City Manager, you're going to be in charge of designating somebody to do the reports. What are your thoughts on that?
Maybe I could offer just a thought there for you. There is an annual report that you do anyway to guarantee the contract that you have to supply and is negotiated if there's any time it did not meet the contract requirement. So can that report just come to this board each year so we can ensure that the agreement has been reached?
We will deliver the report on an annual basis. And just by the way, part of the audit includes the measurement and verification plan. So your staff has exactly what we're planning on doing going forward. To some of the items, the variables that you're talking about are indeed stipulated. In the case of lighting, we're doing a statistically valid sampling to ensure that the fixtures are still in place and are still working, right? The before and after wattage measurements are done at the time of installation, and the burn hours are what are stipulated. Like we're saying, look, we measured how much you use your lights right now, and we're just saying that we're assuming going forward you're going to use the same number of hours. That's what we mean by stipulated. We jointly agree that that assumption will continue to apply going forward. That's a stipulation. So that report will come to your staff on an annual basis, and you can make it available to the board at whatever timeline works with what the board wishes.
Yeah, that's fine by me. A
Is that
report's a
consistent
report.
with the motion?
Yes, it is.
All right. On the motion, further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thank you very much, folks. All right. Let's take up item 22 before we have a lunch break. Non-action items. Who wants to go? Anybody got anything?
Do.
Go.
One, I want to make sure that we do agendize that child abuse evidence issue that was brought up during public comment earlier, so that we explore that further. And then secondly, I just want to offer my services once Adriana goes through the codes on selling local art, local artists being able to sell art, that since I sit on the Arts and Culture Commission, if you need additional input or whatever, I'm happy to help. So, thank you.
Go.
So from the Animal Services Group, I wanted to let you know that we're going to be reviewing and looking at leash laws, just to give you a heads up.
Leash law. Very good. Anybody else? Anybody got anything? I just want to make one comment. Earlier in the day, we had a discussion about deficit, and I want to make sure that it's clear, because I think we need to know, the budget, as I understand it, actually increased the ending fund balance by about 40% over last year, from 5% to 7.02. So as opposed to deficit issues, actually this board, through the budget process, increased the ending fund balance, which is kind of an increase to your rainy day fund. So I just want to make sure that's clear on the record. All right. Anything else come before the board before we adjourn until 1:30? All right. We're adjourned till 1:30. Wait a second. We're in recess until 1:30. You didn't catch me on that. I saw that.